Chapter 262. The Genius Nanny in the City. Chapter 262. If anyone dares to be my enemy, I, Yi Chun, will kill everyone in the world. Urban Romance. G-Kickums. At a bookmark. Recommend book. Chapter 262. If anyone dares to be my enemy, I, Yi Chun, will kill everyone in the world. As Yi Chun's extremely cold voice was heard, the Martial Alliance headquarters that was noisy earlier fell into silence. It was as if a meteorite had fallen into a river. What? He's mad, Southern Yi. I can't believe that this person really dares to come to our Martial Alliance. Do they think that they can destroy our Martial Alliance? How arrogant of you. Who's the young man next to him? Could he be the number 12 on the Heaven leaderboard? The young man in white who defeated the 4 families of Mount Wangwu? Countless eyes focused on the 2 silhouettes in the air. Their pupils shrunk after being stunned for a moment. Shock appeared on their faces. The people from the Martial Alliance were very familiar with Mad Southern Yi. The people from the Martial Alliance were very familiar with him. They could recite everything about Mad Southern Yi backwards. It would be a lie to say that they were not shocked that such a person really came to the Martial Alliance today. At that moment, the place was dead silent. Deputy Chief 2 and the rest are here. Nobody knew who screamed. Everyone could not help but turn their heads to look. They saw Million Killer leaping over with over 10 people behind him. In purple robes, Million Killer lifted his head to look at Yi Chun, who was in the air. He shouted coldly, "Mad Southern Yi, how dare you come to our Martial Alliance? Who are you?" Yi Chun stood in the air and looked at him in a condescending manner like a god. "I don't want to talk to a nameless dog. Who are you?" "I'm the Deputy Chief of the Martial Alliance, Million Killer." Reminder, please rest your eyes after reading for a long time. Recommended reading. Million Killer stood with his arms behind his back, looking cold. He peeped at Yi Wushuang, who was next to Yi Chun by instinct. His expression turned grim a little. Clearly, even he did not expect Yi Wushuang to come with Yi Chun. "Million Killer?" Yi Chun scoffed in disdain. "You bunch of trash isn't enough for me to kill. Get your chief to come out and die now." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone burst into an uproar. "Arrogant brat, die!" An old man who was standing behind Million Killer suddenly shouted. Energy exploded and turned into a giant green sword. The giant sword charged at Yi Chun directly with a whistling sound. The next moment, a sword gleam bloomed in Yi Wushuang's hand. The sword gleam broke the giant green sword directly. The old man felt the scene before him shake violently, and his vision began to turn upside down. He suddenly saw his own neck. It was very neat, as if it had been cut off by a sharp weapon. He also saw everyone looking at him with a horrified expression. "Where's my head? Why are they looking at me like that? I'm dead." This was his last thought before he died. Bang! His head rolled to the ground. His eyes were wide open, filled with bewilderment and disbelief, as if he had died with a grievance. The entire place was dead silent. Everyone stared blankly at this scene with their eyes wide open. Even the 10 people, including Million Killer, were no exception. The old man earlier was a martial Dao master. He was considered a powerhouse in the Martial Alliance. However, he had died out of nowhere. Dead? At that moment, nobody dared to speak, let alone attack Yi Chun first. After all, there was a bloody example before them. Million Killer's face twitched a little. He said after taking a deep breath in, "Mad Southern Yi, do you know that what you're doing today is challenging the Martial Alliance's dignity? Are you going against the entire Martial Alliance?" At this point, he finally believed in Yi Wushuang's ability. It was no wonder that the old monk from Mean Temple, Rinpoche, was killed with a swing of his sword. Yi Chun smirked lightly. A creepy smile appeared at the corner of his lips. "Your Martial Alliance has been targeting me time and time again. You sent people to assassinate my wife and kidnap my parents by force. So what if I'm challenging you? So what if I'm your enemy? My Martial Alliance represents the entire martial Dao world in China. Are you going against the entire world?" Million Killer's veins were bulging, and he was enraged. "So what if I'm going against the entire world? If anyone dares to go against me, I, Yi Chun, will kill everyone in the world." Yi Chun's eyes were cold as he took a step forward. A shocking killing intent exploded from his body, covering heaven and earth completely. Today, no one in the Martial Alliance will be spared. His extremely cold voice echoed through the entire Martial Alliance. Everyone's expression changed at the same time. Mad Southern Yi, do you really think you're invincible? Today, the Martial Alliance will be your battlefield. Million Killer's body shook intensely. Subsequently, more than 10 terrifying auras exploded from the 10 people behind him. The auras shot into the sky. Their auras tore the sky apart and shook the sky. 8 Guardian Elders, get into the 8 Immortals formation. As Million Killer shouted, 8 old silhouettes leaped into the air. The 8 old figures instantly turned into 8 afterimages and leapt into the air. Their auras were actually completely linked at this moment. Reminder, please rest your eyes after reading for a long time. Recommended reading. They were one and complemented each other. The 8 of them surrounded Yi Chun and Yi Wushuang directly. As energy exploded, 8 energy of different colors connected into a circle, cutting off the duo's path of retreat completely. 8 Immortals formation. The 8 of them shouted at the same time. The auras on their bodies were getting more and more intense, and the killing intent in their eyes was getting more and more intense. They knew very well that Yi Wushuang alone could kill the old monk Rinpoche from the Mean Temple with a swing of his sword. It meant that Yi Wushuang and Yi Chen's individual combat strength surpassed theirs completely. They were no match for them if they fought them alone, so they had to work together. No matter how intense the 8 of their auras were, Yi Chen remained calm and stood proudly. However, a gleam of surprise flashed through his eyes. 8 Immortals formation? He realized that the 8 of them had auras that were no weaker than the old monk who had died under Yi Wushuang's sword earlier. As the 8 of them worked together, their auras were majestic. They gave off an invincible vibe. Mad Southern Yi, the 8 people in front of you are the Martial Alliance's Guardian Elders. Each of them is at the peak of the innate stage, and the 8 Immortals formation is a formation that the Martial Alliance has studied for many years. When it's activated at full force, even a martial Tao Venerable would have to retreat. Therefore, all of you must die today. Million Killer's expression was grim and cold. He was secretly proud of himself. In reality, the formation came from Shang Santian. No matter if it was defense or attack, it was invincible. Throughout the hundreds of years, the Martial Alliance had encountered countless dangers. They had relied on the formation to survive each time and even killed their enemies. Therefore, to him, even if Yi Chun and Yi Wushuang worked together, they were no match for the 8 of them. Mad Southern Yi, let's see what you're capable of today. Let's see if the rumors are true. The 8 of them shouted as energy exploded. They moved and charged at Yi Chun and Yi Wushuang, who were surrounded at the same time. As they moved, the circle before them shrunk rapidly, blocking Yi Chun and Yi Wushuang's way of retreat. Yi Chun glared at the 8 of them expressionlessly. He was like a god looking down on the world. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Why should I, Yi Chun, be afraid of trash like you? You're nothing but ants. I'll kill you guys like chickens within 10 steps. P.S. Today's update is over. Sorry for the long wait. I'm begging for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Chapter 263. Arrogant Junior. I'll show you how powerful the Martial Alliance is today. The 8 Guardian Elders of Martial Alliance extended their palms at the same time. Follow? A dream? Calm the vital energy around was sucked dry. 6 palm prints consolidated in the air and turned into a materialized giant hand that covered the sky. It slammed at Yi Chun and Yi Wushuang's heads. That huge hand was like an evil dragon dancing in the wind, wanting to devour people. It tore the surrounding air into pieces, and a huge force enveloped the earth. Meanwhile, everyone on the ground couldn't help but hold their breaths as they stared at the giant handprint with widened eyes. They could only feel their hearts trembling. Million Killer sneered. This was the power of the 8 Immortals' sea-crossing formation. When 8 people used it, their energy would fuse together, increasing their strength by 3 times. Even he, the Vice Guild Master, had to retreat. Yi Wushuang stood next to Yi Chun with a cold expression. He was like a sharp sword as he watched the 8 of them quietly. Following a flash of lightning, the great thunder sword on his back let out a sword cry. The great thunderclap sword was unsheathed, one sword breaking all techniques. Yi Wushuang held the great thunder sword as sword intent shot into the sky. He took a step forward and swung his sword. Puchi! A dazzling sword light, like a thunderbolt, directly met the huge palm print, leaving a sword mark that was dozens of meters long and several meters wide. Just this one strike. Countless people felt as if their minds were being sucked in. It was as if there was only this sword in the entire world. Boom! With a loud noise, the huge handprint was suddenly destroyed by the sword light. The sword light did not slow down at all. The next moment, 3 of the 8 guardian elders were struck by the sword light, and their bodies were immediately split into 2. The 6 halves of their bodies quickly fell to the ground. What? Million Killer, who had been watching from the side, cried out involuntarily. His face was filled with shock. The remaining 5 Martial Alliance elders staggered and retreated quickly. The shock in their eyes was no less than Million Killers. One of them exclaimed, How is this possible? At this moment, the entire world was deathly silent. Countless people looked at this scene with pale faces. Although they knew that Yi Wushuang had killed the old monk from the Mean Temple with a single swing of his sword, they did not expect him to be so powerful. Just one strike. That one strike had broken through the 8 guardian elders' giant hand seals and killed 3 of them in a row. Where did this monster come from? Isn't he a little too terrifying? Compared to their horror, Yi Wushuang's expression remained the same as he stood quietly in midair. That was Yi Wushuang. That was a swordsman. Not arrogant, not rash, pure. In his eyes, there was no technique that could not be broken with one sword. If there was, then he would use 2 swords. This was the one sword to break all things. Yichen glanced at him as if he was complimenting him. He then lifted his eyes to take a good look at Million Killer and the rest. He scoffed. So, this is the Martial Alliance's 8 Immortals formation? I don't think so. Today you will all die. His voice fell. He charged out all of a sudden. He was so fast that even his afterimage could not be seen. Within the blink of an eye, he appeared behind the 5 guardian elders. The 5 of them had goosebumps all over their bodies. The first elder, who was the most powerful among them, had his eyelids twitching. All of a sudden, he felt a huge palm pressing on his shoulder. Kacha! The first elder's entire arm was squeezed into a bloody mist. He could not help but shriek as he fell from the sky onto the ground. The first one, Yichen's cold voice came. Die. The second elder was frightened again and again. He subconsciously made a horizontal swing in the air. His right leg suddenly spread out, and a green chi appeared on his leg. This kick completely shattered the air. That kick of his could usually pierce through a tank. Even an ordinary martial Dao Grandmaster would be kicked to death by it. However, Yi Chun stood still. He smirked and threw a punch out. There was no fluctuation of supernatural power at all. He charged at the second elder's chest with pure physical strength. Bang! That punch pierced through the second elder's chest directly. Subsequently, he exploded and turned into blood that splattered into the sky. The second one, Yi Chun glared at the remaining 3 people coldly. Everyone stared blankly at this scene. They had already forgotten to breathe, and they could only feel their minds shaking. Yi Wushuang had killed 3 of the most powerful guardian elders in the Martial Alliance with a swing of his sword. Subsequently, Yi Chun had killed 2 of them. What he said earlier was true. I'll kill you guys like chickens within 10 steps. Million Killer was furious. The remaining 3 guardian elders were scared out of their wits now that 5 of them had died one after another. One of them could not help but scream in rage. Deputy Chief, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? As soon as he was done speaking, a purple silhouette shot up into the sky from the ground. Die, Mad Southern Yi. It was Million Killer who attacked. An earth-shattering energy storm charged at Yi Chun like a tornado. Just this pressure alone made countless people subconsciously prostrate themselves on the ground with excited expressions on their faces. The deputy chief had attacked. Now, Yi Chun could no longer be arrogant. Even the remaining 3 guardian elders were no exception. They knew Million Killer's ability very well. Sensing the aura on Million Killer, the unparalleled sword, who was standing aside, looked serious. He was going to attack at that moment. Divine Punch created in 33 days. The 6th form, Quake Hammer. As an extremely cold voice was heard, Yi Chun threw a punch at Bai Yuan, who was charging at him. Subsequently, a golden fist shadow smashed down from the sky. It was approximately 30 meters long and looked like a red sun that was falling. Million Killer's expression changed. He shouted and threw a punch with all his might. Clearly, he wanted to take Yi Chun's punch. The golden fist shadow sliced through the sky and landed on Million Killer's fist accurately. Bang! A tsunami-like energy wave swept through the entire ground. The ground shook intensely as if an earthquake was coming. Countless rocks were blown into the air and crushed into dust. The people closed their eyes immediately when they saw that. When they opened their eyes again, the expression on their faces froze. Subsequently, it was replaced by endless fear. Half of the square on the ground was gone. It was replaced by a gigantic bottomless pit. Million Killer and the remaining 3 guardian elders were nowhere to be seen. They seemed to have vanished into thin air. At that moment, the entire martial alliance fell into dead silence. Countless people's faces turned pale. How long had it been since Yi Chun and Yi Wushuang attacked? The 8 guardian elders and the deputy chief of the martial alliance had died, just like that. At that moment, nobody dared to look at the 2 silhouettes in the air. Mad Southern, Yi lived up to his name. He defeated the entire martial alliance on his own and killed masters like he was killing chickens. Who in the entire martial alliance could stop him? Countless people shuddered. Yi Chun stood with his arms behind his back. He looked at the stone tower before him in a condescending manner. His eyes were deep as he smiled lightly. You could still hold it in after watching for so long. Chapter 264. Yi Chun looked at the stone tower that was 100 meters away. A monstrous killing intent exuded from his body. It spread toward the stone tower like an ocean. As soon as he was done speaking, everyone looked at the stone tower immediately. Many of the Martial Alliance disciples were stunned at first. Subsequently, they seemed to have recalled something, and they had a fervent expression on their faces. Yi Wushuang raised his brows slightly as coldness flashed through his eyes. After a moment of silence, a calm voice came from the stone tower. Mad Southerny, don't you think what you've done today is a little too much? The voice was as soft as a trickle of water. However, it sounded extremely majestic, like the majestic ocean. Too much. Yi Chun smirked. Since you can't control your people, naturally, I'll do it. However, the price is death. How dare you? A scoff came out of the stone tower. Subsequently, a stream of light shot out of the stone tower. As if the stars were moving, the stream of light turned into a silhouette in the air. It was a middle-aged man in black. However, he had white hair and a mediocre appearance. He had no aura at all, giving people the feeling that he was an ordinary person. However, as he stood in the air, almost everyone could not help but lower their heads. A suffocating pressure surged within them. It was a pressure that came from deep within their souls. At that moment, almost all of the Martial Alliance members knelt on the ground uncontrollably. They looked horrified. Chief, a hoarse voice came. A clumsy silhouette crawled out of the giant pit that Yi Chun had created earlier. The person's hair was messy and his face was covered in blood. The people gasped, the reason being that it was Million Killer. He was still alive. Million Killer struggled to stand up from the ground. He knelt on one knee at the silhouette in the air and clasped his fists with respect on his face. Chief, I'm useless. Everyone lifted their heads to look at the silhouette. Chief, he's the chief of the Martial Alliance who has been in closed-door cultivation for decades and has never shown himself. Sikong Ao. Greetings, Chief. At that moment, everyone from the Martial Alliance knelt onto the ground. They exclaimed like a tsunami. Yi Wushuang took a good look at him and said, Brother, this person is very powerful. Yi Chun nodded lightly as a gleam flashed through his eyes. This person is the Martial Alliance's leader, Sikong Ao. His ability was indeed great. He was even more powerful than Bai Zhan Yuan. Faced with the voices of the crowd, Sikong Ao did not say a word. It was as if he did not hear anything as he walked over step by step from midair above the stone tower. That's right, he was walking. He was walking as if he was walking on flat ground. There wasn't a single ripple of energy coming from his body. He wasn't like Million Killer and the others, who used their energy to jump around. He walked very slowly, but with every step he took, it was as if he was stepping on the entire world. Sikong Ao stopped walking slowly when he was less than 50 steps away from Yi Chun and Yi Wuxuan. He stared at Yi Chun with his pair of aged eyes. Mad Southern Yi, although I've been in closed-door cultivation, I've still heard of your name. Sikong Ao spoke slowly. I also know that you're number one on the Heaven leaderboard, and you're even known as the number one in China. However, that's not what you have to barge into my martial alliance and kill our elders. Hearing this, Yi Chun smirked. What? You've allowed your martial alliance to go against me time and time again, assassinate my wife, and capture my parents. Now, I'm not allowed to come here to ask for an explanation? What kind of bullsh asterisk T logic is that? Killing intent filled his eyes as he spoke to this point. Sikong Ao shook his head lightly and grabbed at a house beneath him. At that moment, he grabbed an old silhouette. It was Feng Kuai. Ever since Yi Chun severed his arm, Feng Kuai had been resting on the bed. He had heard everything that happened outside. He thought the chief would attack Yi Chun as soon as he appeared. Never had he thought that Sikong Ao would grab him through the air. Feng Kuai looked extremely terrified as he thought to this point. Chief, shut up. Sikong Ao scoffed and looked at Yi Chun. Mad Southern Yi, I found out that he's the one who made our martial alliance your enemy. I can hand him over to you today, but you have to leave with your people. The crowd gasped as soon as he was done speaking. Disbelief was written all over their faces. Never had they thought that Sikong Ao would do that. Feng Kuai almost passed out. Yi Chun smirked as he met Sikong Ao's gaze. Feng Kuai hated Yi Chun for killing Yuan Bupo. Indeed, he was the culprit who caused the situation that happened today. However, it would be a lie to say that the Martial Alliance and Sikong Ao had no idea what Feng Kuai had done. Those people did not take Yi Chun seriously since the beginning. They thought that Yi Chun could not threaten them, so they turned a blind eye to Feng Kuai's actions. However, the Martial Alliance panicked a little when Yi Chun and the Jade Dragon Snow Mountain killed the three masters. They were shocked by Yi Chun's ability. Although things had come to this, the Martial Alliance had no intention of reconciling with Yi Chun. Instead, they wanted to kill him with a borrowed knife. Therefore, there were more and more conflicts. Eventually, they sent the Ku Rong old men, Unquestionable Jian, and the rest to the Imperial Wind Pavilion to kill Yi Chun. Both parties were on opposite sides now. That was the reason why Yi Chun did not kill Feng Kuai. Instead, he asked him to return to the Martial Alliance to deliver the message. Not only did he want to kill Feng Kuai, but he also wanted to destroy the Martial Alliance. Yi Chun chuckled softly as he thought to this point. He said in disdain, "What? Are you scared?" Impudent. Anger flashed through Sikong Ao's eyes upon noticing that Yi Chun did not know what was good for him. Why would I be afraid of you? I just don't want to kill you, a genius from China, over something insignificant. A small matter. Yi Chun smirked. You sent someone to assassinate my wife and kidnapped my parents. Do you think that's a small matter? His face was grim. To you, it's a small matter, but to me, it's a big matter. Cut the crap. You'll die today, and the Martial Alliance will be destroyed. As soon as he finished speaking, he looked coldly at Feng Kuai, who was in Sikong Ao's hand, and a mocking smile appeared on the corner of his lips. But before that, I have to give you a big present. His voice fell. Feng Kuai, who was in Sikong Ao's hand, suddenly exploded into a cloud of blood mist. The blood mist splattered all over Sikong Ao's body, and he didn't even have the time to scream. It was the spiritual power whirlpool that Yi Chun had left in Feng Kuai's body earlier. With a thought, Feng Kuai's body would explode. Countless people stared blankly at this scene. On the other hand, Million Killer couldn't hide the cold smile on his face. Mad Southern Yi, how dare he reject the chief's request? He even killed Feng Kuai before him. You're seeking death. As expected, Sikong Ao's face gradually turned gloomy and cold. The heavens and earth were filled with dense, killing intent. Mad Southern Yi, you're seeking death. Chapter 265. As soon as Sikong Ao said the word die, Dream Follower, calm the atmosphere around cooled down as if the temperature had dropped by tens of degrees. One could not help but feel their scalp tingle as chills ran down their spines. Suddenly, an extremely vast force condensed in Sikong Ao's hand, a force that caused even Million Killer, who was below, to tremble in fear, quickly spread out. Bang! Sikong Ao threw a punch out. There were no fancy moves at all. A fist shadow tore through the sky in extremely shocking speed and charged at Yi Chun and Sikong Ao hard. The fist shadow shot across the sky. The air exploded wherever it passed. The attack was as fast as lightning, and it was impossible to dodge at all. Clang! Yi Wushuang's expression turned serious. He took a step out and swung the great thunder sword first. A dazzling sword gleam charged at the fist shadow as soon as he swung his sword. Bang! Yi Wushuang's sword chi was crushed by the fist shadow. The fist shadow did not slow down at all and eventually landed hard on him. Bang! Yi Wushuang flew backward at that moment. There was a pale expression on his handsome face when he finally managed to stand still. Drip! A drop of blood dripped from the corner of his lips onto the ground. Subsequently, he spat a mouthful of blood out. The blood turned into a bloody mist that was glaring and terrifying. He was injured. Seeing that Sikong Ao had injured Yi Wushuang with a single punch, Million Killer was the first to smile in pride. Chief is invincible. A series of cheers followed. Chief is invincible. Yi Wushuang wiped the blood at the corner of his lips and walked to Yichun again. He looked at Sikong Ao in determination, but his hand that was holding the sword was shaking. Unparalleled sword. How did it feel? Sikong Ao stood with his arms behind his back, looking cold. I admit that you're a genius that's hard to come by in 100 years. On top of that, you're a sword Dao genius. Regular martial Dao masters aren't your match. It's unfortunate that you've encountered me. Sikong Ao shook his head lightly as his clothes fluttered in the wind. I've been in closed-door cultivation for decades. How can I be an ordinary martial Dao master? I'm only one step away from becoming a martial Dao venerable. To put it bluntly, no one in China is my match. Mad Southern Yi, unparalleled sword. What right do you have to fight me? At this point, the aura on his body exploded in an instant, like a black cloud pressing down on a city, oppressive, suffocating, and heavy. Countless people's expressions changed. At this moment, in their eyes, Sikong Ao was no different from God. Million Killer was no exception. However, Yi Wushuang's expression remained cold as he forced himself to stand behind Yi Chun. The great thunder sword in his hand let out a series of sword cries, as if he wanted to continue fighting Sikong Ao. At this moment, a hand was placed on his shoulder. Step aside. I'll chop off his head and offer it to your sword. Yi Chun chuckled softly and secretly inserted spiritual energy into Sikong Ao's body to heal him. Subsequently, he took a step out and shook his head lightly while looking at Sikong Ao. Sikong Ao, is this your true ability? If so, you won't be able to escape death today. Moreover, you're just a half-step martial venerable. It's not like I've never killed one before. You're no exception. Yi Chun smirked as he spoke to this point. Sikong Ao's eyes turned cold as soon as he said that. Sikong Ao's gaze gradually turned cold as his bone-chilling voice, mixed with dense killing intent, shook the heavens and earth. Since you insist on seeking death, I'll grant your wish. His body shook as soon as he was done speaking. His body suddenly shook, and in an instant, the air between the heavens and earth began to tremble. Thousandfold, heart-shattering palm. Sikong Ao hovered in the air as his shout was like thunder. An extremely powerful aura surged out of his palm like a thunderstorm. A gigantic palm print slammed, toward Yi Chen's head. His speed was extremely fast. Bang! At the same time, a terrifying wind swept everywhere. A shockingly strong wind swept in all directions. The ground of the entire martial alliance trembled at that moment. Then it exploded at the same time. Countless people were shocked as they retreated at the same time. However, just as they turned their gazes over, they were shocked to see that Yi Chun had no intention of retreating in the face of the chief's attack. Instead of retreating, he advanced and quickly charged forward. Gasp! Is this guy seeking death? He's too arrogant. The people gasped at the moment. Even Million Killer's attack was the most powerful one that Sikong Ao had ever seen in his life. Even he had to retreat 90 feet. Yet Yi Chun wanted to take it head on. What else could it be if he was not seeking death? Yi Chun ignored the people's exclamations. He seemed to have turned into a puff of smoke. He walked in a strange footwork, and his body was unpredictable. Ninth Avenue steps. As Yi Chun took one step after another, shadows appeared behind him. Within the blink of an eye, 9 shadows appeared like 9 clones. I've never been afraid of anyone with my body. Great! Yi Chun's deep growl was like rumbling thunder. The aura on his body was extremely ferocious as he threw a punch at Sikong Ao's 1,000-fold heart-shattering palm directly. In the next second, the fist and the palm collided. With the two of them as the center, the air within a 1,000-meter radius was forcefully compressed and exploded. Meanwhile, the people standing on the ground felt the sky and the ground shake. Subsequently, they saw a storm that was filled with a destructive aura rumble in the air. At that moment, everyone was thrown out by the storm. Everyone was sent flying by the storm. Many of them spat out a mouthful of blood. Their pale faces were filled with shock. A low grunt was heard. Sikong Ao's body was thrown out, and he retreated continuously. Clearly, he was affected by the impact. When everyone had their eyes on Yi Chun did not move at all. However, Yi Chun did not move at all. He stood proudly, as if the exchange earlier did not hurt him at all. The entire martial alliance fell into silence as they watched. The entire martial alliance suddenly fell silent. Disbelief appeared in everyone's eyes. Mad Southern Yi actually took it on and even forced the chief to retreat. You managed to take my 1,000-fold, heart-shattering palm. Sikong Ao's chest was heaving as he hovered in the air. There was shock on his face. He felt the vital energy and blood in his body rumbling as if they were going to explode. One must know that even Million Killer, a martial Dao master who had been famous for many years, would not stand a chance against his attack earlier. Yi Chun stood with his arms behind his back and smiled in a creepy manner. There was dense disdain in his smile. That's all the martial alliance chief can do. You, Sikong Ao was enraged. Just when he was going to speak, he saw Yi Chun looking at him coldly. What other techniques do you have? Use them all. Otherwise, you won't have the chance to do so in this lifetime. Sikong Ao's pupil shrunk when he heard what Yi Chun said. Sikong Ao's pupil shrunk. At that moment, he really sensed a dangerous aura from Yi Chun's body. P.S. I'm writing 2 more chapters. Chapter 266. The Genius Nanny in the City. Chapter 266. Do you think you deserve to say thunder? City Romance. G. Kickums. Add a bookmark. Recommend this book. Chapter 266. Do you think you deserve to say thunder? 4th update. Great, very great. Mad Southern Yi, I've underestimated you. Sikong Ao's expression was gloomy as he narrowed his eyes. His gaze was filled with bewilderment, but more than that, it was filled with killing intent. This guy must not be allowed to live. He took a deep breath in after saying that. He shook all 10 of his fingers, and 10 mist-like energy surged out of each of his fingers. The 10 energy surges were as white as snow and as thin as hair. However, the moment they appeared, the entire air suddenly cooled down, and a bone-chilling aura was emitted from the 10 threads of strength chi. Everyone's pupils shrunk. There was fear in their eyes as they looked at the 10 white energy threads. Yi Chun stood proudly and scoffed. Sikong Ao, you're the Martial Alliance chief. Where did you learn needlework? The so-called needlework was a woman's job of threading needles. were the energy threads that Seekong Ao consolidated not equivalent to cotton threads? Mad Southern Yi, don't you dare. Seekong Ao's arms trembled once again, and countless white threads condensed from his fingers. Everyone was shocked to find out that the air around him had actually solidified and had even turned into ice. Meanwhile, there was a bone-chilling chill in the air. Seekong Ao crossed his arms, and the countless white threads weaved into a huge white net in an extremely ingenious manner. The huge net fell from the sky and covered Yi Chun directly. Meanwhile, his hair was frozen at a speed that could be seen with the naked eye. Mad Southern Yi, how does my 1,000 trickeries lure taste? This is the frigid energy that I collected from the Arctic tundra. I've refined it for tens of thousands of days and nights. Seekong Ao laughed out loud. Yichun looked at the huge net on him. He wanted to break it, but he realized that the net was shrinking after being pressured. After the big net covered him, the chilly air froze his eyes, brows, mouth, and lower body. In the end, Yi Chun turned into an ice sculpture. Ha! Mad Southern, Yi has been frozen by the chief. He has completely lost the ability to resist. The Alliance Master is invincible. It's fine when he doesn't make a move, but when he does, it's like a thunderbolt. It's too easy for him to kill Mad Southern Yi just like that. I suggest using a hammer to break the ice sculpture. That way, he'll turn into pieces. And please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. In BSB, all of the Martial Alliance disciples laughed out loud when they saw that. Pride filled their faces as if Yi Chun was already dead. The sound was piercing to the eyes. Seekong Ao threw his head back and laughed. Yi Wushuang, who was far away, looked serious when he saw that. He held his sword and ran to Yi Chun, who had turned into an ice sculpture immediately. He seemed to want to save Yi Chun. However, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him and blocked his way. It was Seekong Ao. Unparalleled sword. Mad Southern Yi is dead. Why don't you surrender to me? I'll spare your life. Seekong Ao looked at Yi Wushuang in mockery. Seeing that Yi Wushuang did not move, Seekong Ao spoke again. I've no idea what's your relationship with Mad Southern Yi, but I think you're just friends. There's no need for you to die with him. At that moment, he heard a series of cracking noises. Suddenly, he heard a series of cracking sounds, as if a layer of ice was breaking, accompanied by the sound of water dripping onto the ground. He turned his head to look immediately. He saw a raging fire burning inside the ice sculpture that Yi Chun had turned into. Yi Chun turned into a man on fire directly. The fire was getting bigger, and eventually, the ice sculpture melted slowly. Streams of water were dripping down quickly. How was that possible? The smile on Seekong Ao's face froze. Seekong Ao, do you think you can trap me with that technique? That's just wishful thinking. Yi Chun, who was in the ice sculpture, said slowly, True Samadhi fire, burn the heavens and melt the earth. Bang! The ice sculpture exploded. At the same time, the fire on Yi Chun's body swept through the air. It lit up thousands of meters, and the scorching air wave filled heaven and earth. Seekong Ao looked at each other in shock and retreated immediately. Yi Chun stood in the sea of fire with his arms behind his back. He walked one step after another like the god of fire had arrived. Countless people watched that blankly. They were dumbstruck, and they were secretly shocked. Such a technique had surpassed the level of a human. A smile appeared on Yi Wushuang's cold face. He seemed relaxed. How is that possible? How was that possible? Seekong Ao's expression finally changed drastically. Not only was Yi Chun not afraid of his 1,000 trickeries, but he had even created fire to break his 1,000 trickeries. Yi Chun walked toward him one step after another and shook his head lightly. I'm very disappointed in you. From today onward, the Martial Alliance will cease to exist. Ha ha ha. Seekong Ao, who was enraged, suddenly laughed out loud. Yi Chun frowned slightly. What are you laughing at? I heard that you're called Master Yi. You can control lightning and now fire. I think you're a spell master too, but do you think you're the only one? Seekong Ao said while smiling. Congratulations, you've successfully forced me to use my technique. In reality, Apart from being a half-step martial venerable, I'm also a spell master. Spell master? Yichen was surprised. You don't know that you're a spell master? Sikong Ao frowned slightly. He smiled proudly after noticing that Yi Chun did not look like he was faking it. In this world, there aren't only ancient martial artists, but there are also spell masters. If ancient martial artists rely on their physical strength, spell masters rely on spells. So, you're a dual cultivator of spells and martial arts? The shock in Yi Chen's eyes grew. He did not expect there to be a spell master. Note, please rest your eyes when you read for a long time. Recommended reading, it's similar to cultivators. Sikong Ao smirked and took out a talisman. He then bit the tip of his tongue and spat a mouthful of blood onto the talisman. After absorbing his blood, the talisman released a glow that was as bright as day. Subsequently, it split into 8 beams of light and shot around the Martial Alliance mountain gate. Meanwhile, his skin began to shrivel and his face looked haggard. He looked like he had aged 10 years in an instant. Sikong Ao stomped his foot hard and shouted. 8 beams of light shot out from every corner of the Martial Alliance mountain gate. They shot into the sky. Mad Southern Yi, have a taste of my technique. Martial Alliance mountain guarding formation, activate. Borrow the 9 heavens divine lightning. Sikong Ao shouted with all of his strength. Lightning come. As soon as he was done speaking, Yi Chen's expression changed. Bang! Thunder rumbled above the clouds. Countless dark clouds gathered and were extremely heavy. Soon, the sky above everyone was covered in dark clouds, as if ink had been splashed on them. Lightning flashed through the clouds. Everyone knelt onto the ground by instinct. Everyone knelt onto the ground by instinct. Heavenly might. The majestic heavenly might. They could not believe that the chief could perform it. Mad Southern Yi, rumor has it that you can control lightning. Unfortunately, I can too. Let's see who's more powerful today. Sikong Ao could not stop laughing hysterically. Although he said that, his eyes were filled with disdain. The formation had existed since the Martial Alliance was established. The Celestial Master of Mount Longhu had put in a lot of effort to set it up. He had not used it for hundreds of years. To fight Yi Chun now, Sikong Ao, had used up all of his trump cards. So what if Mad Southern Yi could control lightning? To him, how could that little bit of lightning compare to what he was doing now? Despair, Mad Southern Yi. Sikong Ao could not stop laughing. However, in the next second, he realized that Yi Chun was looking at him like he was an idiot. You want to compete with me in lightning method? I can't believe it. Yi Chun shook his head lightly. He did not know whether to laugh or to cry. Subsequently, he said all of a sudden, however, do you think you deserve to say lightning? Chapter 267. Evil Stay-at-Home Dad in the City. Chapter 267. Thunder Comes. Disperse for this daddy. 5th update. Urban Romance. G-Kickums. Add a bookmark. Recommend this book. Chapter 267. Thunder Comes. Disperse for this daddy. 5 p.m. For some reason, Sikong Ao felt slightly uneasy when he saw Yi Chen smile. He smirked by instinct and said, I know you can control lightning, but this lightning guiding formation was set up by Mount Longhu's Celestial Master when the Martial Alliance was founded. When it's activated, 8 bolts of lightning will descend. At this point, he paused, and the sneer on his face became even more intense. If you can control them, I will immediately commit suicide in front of you. The muffled thunder in the sky continued. Yi Chen lifted his head to look up. He saw that the lightning in the clouds was getting more intense, followed by a series of muffled explosions. Poochie! 8 bolts of lightning that were as thick as a baby's arm descended from the clouds all of a sudden. They intertwined and charged at Yi Chun. When Sikong Ao saw this, he took out another talisman and retreated far away. The talisman in his hand was drawn by the Celestial Master from Mount Longhu, who had created the formation. Being able to prevent the person who activated the formation from being attacked by lightning was also the reason why he had the confidence to activate the formation. After retreating to a safe area, Sikong Ao smirked and waved at Yi Chun. Goodbye, Mad Southern Yi. The rest looked at Yi Chun while gloating. They were standing far away, so they did not have to worry about being struck by lightning at all. Seeing that the 8 bolts of lightning were getting closer and closer to him, Yi-chun shook his head lightly. Subsequently, he pointed at the sky and shouted, "Scatter!" His roar directly overshadowed the muffled thunder above the clouds and shook the entire world. Do you think you're the god of thunder, dispersing just like that? Million Killer could not help but laugh from afar. However, the next moment, the smile on his face suddenly froze. As soon as Yi-chun was done speaking, the 8 bolts of lightning that were about to strike, Yi-chun seemed to have stopped as if they were frightened by something. Then, in front of everyone's dumbfounded expressions, the 8 bolts of lightning changed direction and quickly flew into the clouds. Their speed was more than 3 times faster than before. In an instant, the dark clouds and lightning that had been hovering in the sky disappeared without a trace, and the clear sky was restored once again. It was as if the scene just now was just a dream. Please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. / all of a sudden. Sikong Ao was stunned. Million Killer was stunned. Everyone was so shocked that their eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. *CK your mother. It really dispersed. How is this possible? An extremely sharp voice broke the dead silence. Sikong Ao looked at Yi-chun in disbelief. Why did the lightning disappear just because you said so? That's because I'm Master Yi who can control lightning. Didn't you already know that? Yi-chun chuckled. In fact, he was a celestial arch, and there was Emperor's might on his body. The more his strength recovered, the stronger the Emperor's might. Furthermore, the 8 thunder gods were his subordinates. The god of thunder and the goddess of lightning didn't have the right to speak in front of him. Therefore, they wouldn't dare to strike him even if they had 100 guts. Therefore, he released his Emperor's might on purpose. The 8 bolts of lightning were scared off as soon as they sensed him. Moreover, he had the body of an immortal. So what if he was really struck by lightning? It was no different from tickling him. Sikong Ao had the urge to vomit blood upon hearing what Yi-chun said. You're a freak. A freak. He dared not take the 8 bolts of lightning earlier, but he was scared off by what Yi-chun said. Most importantly, the martial alliance formation could only be used once. You want to compete with me in lightning method? You're playing with fire, young man. Mockery appeared at the corner of Yi-chun's lips. Subsequently, he said while smiling, I'll show you what real lightning is before you die. You piece of trash. Lightning come. He lifted his arm and pointed at his mouth. Lightning come. Almost at that moment, the clouds that were initially clear turned into dark clouds in the blink of an eye. Thunder clouds gathered. Rumble. As thunder rumbled, a lightning bolt that was as thick as a bucket struck from the dark clouds like a lightning python. The lightning bolt charged at Sikong Ao, who was far away. No, the expression on Sikong Ao's face did not change at all. He released a furious roar of indignation by instinct. Mad Southern Yi, you can't kill me. Shang Santian is behind my martial alliance. If you bang, the lightning fell. He was killed. The dignified martial alliance chief, Sikong Ao, who had a combat ability that was above the peak of China, ended up like this. The lightning dispersed and the clouds retreated. The sky turned bright again, illuminating the extremely horrified faces. Each of them was so pale that there was no color in them at all. At that moment, the entire place fell into dead silence. Nobody spoke, and nobody dared to speak. Everyone looked at Yi-chun blankly. He retreated the lightning with a single word and summoned lightning with a wave of his hand. Was he a god? God, spare me. Spare me. Nobody knew who screamed and knelt on the ground first. He kowtowed to Yi-chun like he was pounding garlic. A series of people followed suit. They were dying to knock their brains out. God, spare us. This has nothing to do with us. Yi-chun looked down at them in a condescending manner. Yi Wushuang held the great thunder sword in an attempt to kill all of them. Yi-chun shook his head lightly. Forget it. I'll just kill the leader. Reminder, please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. Recommended reading. Million Killer snapped back to his senses. He was so scared that he almost peed his pants. He ran far away while ignoring the injuries on his body. I'll kill him. Yi Wushuang chased after him with his sword after saying that. Yi Chen landed on the ground and saw hundreds of people kneeling around him. Among them, there were tens of people with rather powerful auras. All of them had a cultivation base of illuminating pulse. Moreover, they were hiding among the crowd and seemed to be vaguely hostile toward Yi Chen. Yi Chen flicked his finger, and a fireball leaped out. It turned into tens of sparks and landed on them. As the rest watched in horror, all of them turned into black smoke. Not even their ashes were left behind. Don't move if you don't want to die. Yi Chen looked at the survivors coldly. His expression was extremely cold. I only kill those who are hostile to me. If any of you don't like me, show it to them as soon as possible so that you can accompany them on the road to hell. As soon as he said that, everyone buried their heads in the ground, suppressing the thoughts in their minds. Seeing this, a black streamer appeared in Yi Chen's hand. It was the 100-soul streamer. Currently, he was still short of dozens of souls to complete it. Thinking of this, he picked up the 100-soul banner and leapt into the air, waving it at the corpses on the ground. For a time, countless wisps of black gas floated out from the corpses, reflecting the resentful faces. The black gas was completely absorbed into the 100-soul banner. As for Sikong Ao, his soul had already been destroyed by the lightning, so it was impossible for his soul to exist. What a pity! I shouldn't have struck him with lightning. Yi Chen shook his head. Sikong Ao's strength was profound, and the resentment of his soul after his death was also stronger than others. If it was placed in the 100-soul banner, it would greatly increase the might of the 100-soul banner. He looked at the black-clad young man closest to him and asked, "Where's the Martial Alliance's treasure vault? Bring me there." Naturally, it was the right thing to do after killing someone. That was the unchanging truth. At that moment, a few silhouettes leaped from the foot of the mountain. Each of them had a powerful aura, and the one leading them was Yang Junlin. Yang Junlin had a drastic change of expression when he realized that Sikong Ao was dead. "Venerable Yi, did you really kill Sikong Ao? You're in big trouble. P.S. From tomorrow onward, I'll update 2 chapters every day at 12:30 p.m. and 3 chapters every night. I'm looking for recommendation votes and monthly votes." Chapter 268. I caused great trouble. Yi Chen lifted his head to look at Yang Junlin and frowned. Does the government have something against me for killing Sikong Ao? That's secondary. With Dream, www.simung.com, Yang Junlin smiled bitterly and said, "Do you still remember what I told you before? The Martial League is from the upper 3 heavens. It's all right." Yi Chen shook his head lightly. "If Shang Santian really comes looking for me, Yi Chen will fight them anytime." After saying that, he got someone to bring him to the Martial Alliance's treasure vault immediately. The Martial Alliance had been established for so many years, so they must have collected some stuff. What if there was something he could use in there? Yi Chen left without a care in the world. Yang Junlin sighed to himself. On the other hand, Yin Nanfei, Li Yunxiao, and the rest who were behind him kept looking at the traces of the battle. When they saw the huge crater on the ground and the mess around, they looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. They were also experts, so they could naturally infer the scene of the battle from the traces on the scene. Peng Yuanqing asked in disbelief, "Is Sikong Ao really dead?" He asked the question that was on everyone's mind. After all, Sikong Ao was known as the legend of China several decades ago. He had been in closed-door cultivation for the past several decades, and no one knew how strong he had become. It was easier said than done for Yi Chen to kill him. Li Yunxiao shook his head and walked toward the many Martial Alliance members in front of him. After asking a few people, not only did he learn about the outcome of the incident, but he also learned about the process. All of a sudden, the few of them inhaled sharply at the same time. They looked extremely shocked. All of them were shocked by Yi Chen's technique of repelling the divine lightning and summoning it casually. Yang Junlin could not help but exclaim, "Supreme Yi is indeed Supreme Yi. He cultivates both magic and martial arts, and he's even an expert of the mighty god plane." The realms of spell masters were entering the Tao and connecting the gods. Once they reached the entering the Tao realm, They could cultivate mystical chi and use it to attack their enemies. They could even control magical artifacts. Once they reached the connecting the gods realm, their techniques would be close to divine powers. At that moment, Yi Wuxuang walked over slowly with a human head in his hand. He said nothing as he stood aside, secretly searching for Yi Chun. Yin Nanfei was stunned when he saw the head's facial features. He could not help but exclaim, "Million killer!" When Yi Chun arrived at the Martial Alliance's treasure vault, he realized that the door to the treasure vault was a stone door that weighed 1,000 kilograms. According to the Martial Alliance disciple who led the way, only Sikong Ao's key could open the stone door. However, Yi Chun did not care about that at all. Under the shocked gaze of the person leading the way, he lifted the stone door with his physical strength alone. What came into view was a stone room that occupied an area of about 500 square meters. Inside the stone room, there were many large boxes that were sealed, chained, and locked. Yi Chun scanned them with his divine consciousness and noticed that most of them were common items such as gold, silver, copper, and iron. There were even 5 big boxes of gold bars, which are the so-called yellow croakers. That's right, 5 chests of gold. In total, there were at least 500 caddies, which was 250 kilograms. According to the price of 350 yuan a gram, it was more than 80 million yuan in total. Yi Chun could not help but feel a little disappointed. However, when his gaze swept over the last 2 boxes, his furrowed brows suddenly relaxed. One of them contained many precious herbs, such as 1,000-year-old ginseng and 500-year-old Chinese knotweed. It was Yi Chun's first time seeing such precious herbs on Earth. Although they were all common items, it was better than nothing. Meanwhile, there were many bottles and jars in the other box. There were many medicinal pills in them, but the medicinal effects were not very powerful. With Yi Chun's insight, he could tell that those medicinal pills were for ancient martial artists. Their effects were basically to refine one's body and build one's foundation. The only thing that piqued his interest was that there were 3 pale yellow medicinal pills in one of the gourds. The medicinal effects were much more powerful than the rest. Yi Chun walked over and broke the lock on the box with one hand. He took out the gourd after opening the box and poured one of the pills into his palm. He studied it carefully. He came to a realization at that moment. It seemed like the 3 medicinal pills were the so-called breakthrough pills. The Martial Alliance had used them as a reward when they issued the kill order on him. This is great, but it's a pity that there are only 3 of them. Yi Chun secretly shook his head. He could tell at a glance that the so-called breakthrough pills were mainly for peak stage, illuminating pulse people to break through to Martial Dao Master, which was beginner stage and innate stage. It was pure nonsense for peak stage, innate stage Martial Dao Masters to increase their cultivation base after consuming it. If that was possible, why would Sikong Ao stay until now? Although that was the case, there would definitely be a bloodbath if the 3 medicinal pills got out. Although Martial Dao Masters were nothing to Yi Chun, they were no different from super powerhouses to the rest. After all, many ancient martial artists could not break through to innate stage their entire lives. Naturally, the breakthrough pills were extremely precious. The first thing that came to Yi Chun's mind was to let his parents consume the medicinal pills. However, he dismissed that thought soon. The breakthrough pills had the best effect on illuminating pulse ancient martial artists. Meanwhile, his parents were ordinary people. If he were to consume it by force, their bodies would not be able to take it. Even if they could, they would be old and their vital energy and blood would be insufficient. It would be difficult for them to go far on the path of ancient martial arts. Moreover, Yi Chun was a cultivator. How could he let his parents walk the path of ancient martial arts? The troublesome thing was that his parents did not have a spiritual root, so they could not cultivate at the moment unless Yi Chun could refine the Qi Repair pill to help his parents develop a spiritual root. Even in the cultivation world, the chaotic mending pill was an extremely rare item. How could it be that easy to refine? Yi Chun could not help but feel a strong sense of danger as he thought to this point. It seems like I'll have to recover my ability as soon as possible and look for the materials to refine the Qi Repair pill as soon as possible. His parents were over 50 years old. With Yi Chun's current ability, the most he could let them live was 100 years old. That was under the condition that they had the longevity pill. If they did not become cultivators, they would not be able to escape the cycle of reincarnation 100 years later. Even Yi Chun, who was the heavenly emperor in his past life, could do nothing about it. As for feeding his parents the immortal pill so that they could ascend to the heavens, that was pure fantasy. It would be dangerous for an ordinary person to consume a normal spiritual pill, let alone an immortal pill. If they consumed it, it would be impossible for them to ascend to the heavens, but it was entirely possible for them to die. Yi Chun shook his head and waved his arm after getting rid of the distracting thoughts in his head. He put everything that was useful to him into his storage ring. That included the 5 boxes of gold bars. There was a total of 10 cubic meters of space in his storage ring. It was similar to a small house that was 3 meters long, wide, and tall. It was enough to store so many items. When he walked out of the treasure vault, Yang Junlin and the rest were still outside. Meanwhile, there were many young men and women in suits and ties next to them. Venerable Yi, let me introduce you to them. They're the people sent by the government. Yang Junlin smiled and said, now that all the experts, including Sikong Ao, are dead, the Martial Alliance only exists in name. To prevent chaos, the government has sent someone to take over temporarily. Do you have any objections? It doesn't matter. I've killed them and taken my revenge anyway. You guys can do whatever you want. Yi Chun smiled calmly and left with Yi Wushuang after saying that. Yi Chun smiled lightly. Chapter 269. Although the Martial Alliance was almost destroyed and the news of Sikong Ao's death was suppressed by the government on purpose, some people in the Chinese martial Dao world still felt that something was off. Sui_Meng, some of them are like the old monk from Mean Temple. After noticing Martial Alliance's unusual behavior, they became even more silent. In a remote mountain village in the west, an old farmer in his 50s was running frantically. Upon closer inspection, one could see that he was holding a red bra tightly in his hand. Behind the old farmer was a middle-aged man with a kitchen knife in each hand, cursing as he ran with a murderous aura. You with the surname Nyo, don't run if you have the guts. How dare you steal my wife's underwear? If I don't chop you to death today, my surname isn't Wang. Lao Wang, don't be rash. It's not what you think. Listen to my explanation. I didn't steal your wife's underwear. The wind blew it into my hands. The old farmer panted. Let me cut you a few times first before I explain. The middle-aged man chased after him relentlessly. The old farmer was furious. He passed by the middle-aged man's house and stared at the lingerie hanging on the drying pole in front of his house. A sudden gust of wind blew one of the red bras into his hands. When the middle-aged man saw this scene, he went back to the kitchen, grabbed 2 kitchen knives, and without saying a word, he wanted to cut him. It was as if he had an affair with his wife. Gritting his teeth, the old farmer sped up and left the middle-aged man in the dust. The middle-aged man spat on the ground and left angrily. This time, the old farmer sat on the ground. Just then, his phone rang, and he hurriedly picked it up. A few seconds later, he hung up the phone. Shock flashed across his old face that was drenched in sweat from exhaustion earlier. Sikong Ao died in that brat's hands too? Interesting. One must know that Sikong Ao was only a step away from becoming a martial Dao venerable, and he was even a spell master. However, he was still killed by that Yi brat. Could it be that Yi brat has already become a martial Dao venerable? Thinking to there, a gleam flashed through the old farmer's cloudy eyes. If he really breaks through to a martial arts sovereign, should I go and meet him? A few seconds later, he shook his head. Forget it, I won't go. That brat Yi destroyed the Su family. But he didn't know that there's someone in the Su family who escaped. He later killed by Zhang Yuan from Shang Santian, and now he's killed Sikong Ao. He's considered a mortal enemy of Shang Santian. Yes, I'm not going. I still want to live for a few more years. What's the point of fighting and killing? I might as well go to the riverside to watch Chui Hua bathe, or to feel the bones of little girls and treat illnesses. That night, Yi Chun and Yi Wushuang returned to Beijing. It was past 8 at night. His parents, Su Yuhan, and the rest were enjoying the cool breeze in the courtyard of the Imperial Wind Pavilion. The family was talking and laughing. Meng Meng, who was in Su Yuhan's embrace, would laugh from time to time, melting Yi Chen's cold heart completely. Yihai was rather upset to see Yi Chen. "Where have you guys been? Why are you back so late?" "Dad, Wu Shuang and I went to meet a friend and had a meal. That's why we're late." "I'm sorry." Yi Chen said the excuse that he had come up with earlier. Yihai's expression eased up, and he stopped asking. Meanwhile, Su Yuhan, who was standing aside, took a good look at Yi Chen. Naturally, she was smart enough to guess that Yi Chen and Yi Wushuang's trip this time was not as simple as having a meal. However, she could not say anything in front of her parents. "Oh yeah, Xiaochen, your dad and I have decided to go back to Tianan tomorrow," Wu Lan said all of a sudden. Yi Chen got Yi Wushuang to sit down. He could not help but look at her. "Mom, why are you in such a hurry? Why don't you stay for a few more days? Moreover, wasn't our house bombed?" "It's an old house that was bombed. Don't you have a villa in Nine Dragons Bay? Your dad and I will move in when we get back." Wu Lan shook her head and said while smiling, "The reason why your dad and I are in such a hurry to go back is that we're worried about our family. Our main reason is that we want to prepare for your and Yuhan's wedding." "Mom, are you in too much a hurry?" Su Yuhan's cheeks flushed. Getting married was the most romantic thing for a woman, but it was also the most stressful and shy thing. "I'm not in a hurry at all." Yihai smoked and said while shaking his head, "Choosing the date, contacting the wedding planner, purchasing the items, and notifying the relatives. There are many things to do. It's better to plan as soon as possible." He seemed to recall something as he spoke to this point. "Oh yeah, are you guys planning to have a Western wedding or a Chinese wedding? Yuhan, you decide." Yi Chen looked at Su Yuhan by instinct and gave her the choice. To him, it did not matter whether it was a Chinese or a Western wedding. It was just a formality. He mainly wanted to give Su Yuhan a status through this. It was a man's responsibility. "A Western wedding," Su Yuhan said while blushing. Wu Lan said while smiling, "Sure, Xiaochen. If it's a Western wedding, you'll have to propose and you'll need a diamond ring. You'll have to prepare that in advance." "Got it, Mom." Yi Chen nodded lightly. The family chatted for a while. Yihai and Wu Lan had to catch a flight the next day, so they went to bed early. Before they left, Wu Lan carried Meng Meng, who had fallen asleep in Su Yuhan's embrace. After Yi Chen and Su Yuhan returned to their room, they lay on the bed quietly. They looked at each other and smiled sweetly. "You're getting married? Are you happy? Do you have anything to say to me, your future husband?" Yi Chen looked at her with a gentle gaze. "Not yet." Su Yuhan rested her head on Yi Chen's chest. Her black, beautiful hair exuded a fragrance that ignited Yi Chen's lust completely. "If not, we'll talk about it in the future." Yi Chen flipped over and pressed her under him. Not long after, the entire house was filled with an extremely stifled sound, which lasted for more than an hour before it dissipated. Su Yuhan's body was as soft as water after the pleasure. She curled into a ball in Yi Chen's embrace. "Dummy, I tried it secretly today. Nothing happened. What did you try?" Yi Chen was stunned. "I tried it with a contraceptive, but nothing happened." Su Yuhan smacked him angrily and said while blushing, "I heard that the test will be out in around half a month. It's normal that nothing happened. How can you be 100% sure? It's like buying a lottery ticket." Yi Chen said in between tears and laughter, "Is there something wrong with my body? Should I go to the hospital for a checkup?" She suddenly became nervous. Yi Chen held his head down and pecked her red lips. "Don't scare yourself. If there's something wrong with you, how did Meng Meng come about?" Su Yuhan was relieved. Yi Chen suddenly said, "Oh yeah, there's something I need to tell you. Come to Longxi with me after Mom and Dad go back." "Why are we going to Longxi?" Su Yuhan looked at him in confusion. "You'll know when the time comes." Yi Chen smiled mysteriously. The Ghost Rider's Sect Mountain Gate that Bai Zhan Yuan found was in Longxi. Meanwhile, Su Yuhan had a pure Yin body and a dark spiritual root that was extremely rare in the cultivation world. It would be 100 times more difficult for her to step onto the path of cultivation compared to others. For ordinary people to step onto the path of cultivation, they must have a spiritual root. Only those with a spiritual root could sense the spiritual energy between heaven and earth. The spiritual root was basically categorized by the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. The simpler the spiritual root, the faster the cultivation speed. Apart from the 5 elements, there were mutated spiritual roots. For example, Yang Tian's son, Yang Hao, had a lightning spiritual root. There were also ice spiritual roots, wind spiritual roots, and so on. Such mutated spiritual roots were very rare. The so-called dark spiritual root was a spiritual root with a dark attribute. Such a spiritual root was even rarer than mutated spiritual roots. It was a genius born to cultivate the Ghost Dao method, and they could only cultivate the Ghost Dao method. Meanwhile, not only did Su Yuhan have a dark spiritual root, but she also had a pure Yin body. The pure Yin body could only unleash its power after the seal was removed. If the Ghost Rider sect Mountain Gate really existed, it might be able to help Su Yuhan to remove the seal on her pure Yin body. It might even help Su Yuhan's cultivation. It was a quiet night. The next day, Yihai and his wife flew back to Tianan after breakfast. This time, Lin Tai escorted them personally. Yichun received a call from Old Chun as soon as he returned from the airport. "Little Yi, come my place. I found the geographical vein that you're looking for." Chapter 270. The Genius Stay-at-Home Dad in the City. Chapter 270. Longmen Convention. CMS. Add a bookmark. Chapter 270. Chapter 270. Longmen Convention. 3 p.m. The geographical vein was located. Yichun was secretly shocked. Before this, he was just casually making a request to Old Chun. He did not have high hopes for it. Never had he thought that Old Chun would find it so soon. No wonder he was the second in command of the military. No matter how calm he was, he could not help but feel a little excited. As soon as he found the geographical vein, he would definitely be able to recover to foundation building. By then, he would have more techniques. After hanging up, Yichun got Yi Wushuang to stay at home while he walked to the military courtyard alone. Old Chun was studying a map in his military coat. He got Yichun to sit down as soon as he saw him. To Yichen's surprise, Qin Shaotian, who was known as the Zongnanhai Madman, was not around. One must know that he was Old Chen's bodyguard. Seemingly sensing his doubt, Old Chun said, "Something happened to Qin Yao," so Shaotian went to help her. Qin Yao. The name reminded Yi Chun of the lady who had a misunderstanding with him on the military ship earlier. Qin Shaotian's surname was Qin too. Clearly, they were brother and sister. Yi Chun came to a realization. It was no wonder that Qin Shaotian was hostile toward him when he first saw him. He even took the initiative to pick a fight with him. "You're really good at stirring up trouble." Old Chin glanced at him with a grim expression and said with a fake smile, "You kill wherever you go. You don't stop at all. First, it was the Sioux family, and now it's the Martial Alliance. Do you know how many times I've taken the blame for you, and how many times I've cleaned up after you?" The old master had the urge to shoot Yi Chun. However, he realized that Yi Chen's body was powerful, and he was known as the physique master. It seemed like bullets could not hurt him at all. "You can't blame me for that. I won't attack people if they don't attack me." Yi Chen smiled calmly. Please pay attention to your eyes when you read for a long time. Recommended reading. / Old Chin scoffed and turned around to pick up a document from the table. He tossed it to Yi Chun. Yi Chun took it and took a look. He realized it was a letter of appointment for the position of the Firearms Division's chief instructor. There were all sorts of clauses listed on it, such as a confidentiality agreement. Yi Chun put him aside after taking a glance at him. He said at a speed that was neither fast nor slow, "Old Chun, didn't you promise to tell me the location of the geographical vein?" Back when he agreed to join the Divine Arms Battalion, he mentioned 3 conditions. The first was that the Divine Arms Battalion would not restrain him. The second was that they would help him find the location of the Earth vein. The third was to find Su Yuhan's whereabouts. Now that Yi Chun had completed the first and third conditions, he still had no idea where the geographical vein was. That was the purpose of his visit today. "Don't worry. Since I asked you to sign, I definitely won't let you down." Old Chin passed the map that he had been studying to Yi Chen casually. Yi Chen glanced at it and realized that it was a map of Yiling. There was a circle marked at the edge of the map. He could not help but frown. "Shenangjia? Not bad." Old Chin nodded and said, "A sinkhole was discovered in Shenangjia recently. This sinkhole is different from other sinkholes. There's a sea of fire inside. The expert team found out that the fire in the sinkhole is burning all year round. It's been burning for at least 2,000 years. It's been burning for 2,000 years? Yi Chen's interest was piqued. That's right. This sinkhole was discovered by a tourist who lost his way. Theoretically, there are a couple of similar landforms. The fire is burning because there's oil underground or natural gas that's leaking out. Old Chen shook his head lightly as he spoke to this point. However, this sinkhole is rather strange. The experts have been investigating it secretly for a long time. They didn't find any combustibles such as oil, natural gas, or anything else. They couldn't figure out why the fire is burning all year round. Yi Chen secretly shook his head. He did not care about what Old Chen said. Apart from natural gas, oil, and other combustibles that could keep the fire burning, there was another possibility. The sinkhole was nurturing fire essence. The so-called fire essence was the purest and most primitive fire seed. Not only would it not be extinguished, but it could also keep burning and grow. A place like this was the geographical vein that Yi Chen needed. At this time, Senior Chun said, "This sinkhole is slightly similar to the ley line you mentioned before. That's why I asked you to confirm it." "There's no need to confirm it. It must be." Yi Chen shook his head and smiled. Subsequently, he took the letter of appointment for the Firearms Division's chief instructor and signed his name right away, Yi Chen. Old Chen's expression finally eased up upon seeing that. He handed a Firearms Division ID to Yi Chen and extended his arm while smiling. "Congratulations on joining the Firearms Division, Major General Yi. From today onward, you're the chief instructor of the Firearms Division." Speaking of this, Elder Chun sighed with emotion. In this peaceful era, it was easier said than done to become a major general. However, Yi Chen had become a major general at the age of 30. Moreover, he was a major general under the Special Forces Brigade. His authority and treatment were much higher than other places. Most importantly, he was the chief instructor of the Divine Strategy Battalion, leading the elites of the army. If news of this spread, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. Yi Chen shook his hand and nodded lightly. There was not much excitement on his face. In reality, the sinkhole was what he cared about. Seeing his indifferent expression, Old Chen almost died of anger. "Sometimes I wonder, you look young, but your temperament is different. Please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time." 00 recommended reading. Why was he so calm? Just like an old monster that has lived for 1,000 years. Yi Chen could not help but glance at him. He thought to himself, "You're right. I've really lived for over 3,000 years." Old Chen didn't notice his expression. Instead, he said, "This sinkhole is currently blocked. You can't go there for the time being. You'll have to wait for a month at the earliest." "It's all right." Yi Chen did not mind. He had many things to do at the moment. First, he had to go to Longxi to visit the Ghost Rider sect Mountain Gate. Secondly, he had to bring Su Yuhan home to get married. It would take about a month. All right. At this moment, Old Chen seemed to have thought of something. He said with a grave expression, "I suddenly remembered that the Longmen Convention will be held in Shenangjia in a month." The Longmen Convention? Yi Chen raised his brows slightly. The so-called Longmen Convention is a grand event in the spell world. It's held once every 3 years. People from the spell world will be participating, such as people from Mount Longhu, Mount Lao, and Hong Kong. Old Chen spoke confidently. In reality, the battle in the spell world is much more intense than the ancient martial arts world because it involves many sects' ideals and inheritance disputes. For example, the Tibetan Buddhism is divided into the esoteric sect and the tantric sect. In Hong Kong, there's the southern sect and the northern sect. One could say that both parties are like fire and water. They've always wanted to unify the spell world to prove that their inheritance is the most authentic. Yi Chen came to a realization. So, the Longmen Convention is actually an exchange event in the spell world where both parties fight? Ever since he killed Sikong Ao, he learned that apart from the ancient martial arts world, there was also the spell world. The ancient martial arts world corresponded to ancient martial artists while the spell world corresponded to spell masters. That's right. I heard that Celestial Master Zhang from Mount Longhu, Shi Jizong, the monk from Nalanda Temple, and the leader of the southern sect, and Dao Yuan, will be there too. Old Qin could not help but look at Yi Chun as he spoke to this point. The few of them have unfathomable spells. Their reputation in the spell world is on par with your reputation in the ancient martial arts world. Since your identity as a spell master might be leaked, I'd like to remind you not to have any conflict with them. As long as they don't offend me, naturally, I won't offend them. Yi Chen said nonchalantly with his arms behind his back. If these people provoked him, he would definitely not hold back, no matter how great the flood surged. P.S. I'm not feeling well. It's midnight today. Chapter 271. Old Chen asked while smiling when he saw Yi Chun sign the letter. Since you're the chief instructor of the Firearms Division now, do you want me to get someone to bring you to the Firearms Division's headquarters to introduce you to everyone? He could not wait for Yi Chun to take up the position immediately. After all, the annual military competition was coming soon. Meanwhile, the Firearms Division had been ranked last for the past 2 years. Naturally, it would be better for them to start training as soon as possible. I don't want to go for now. Yi Chun shook his head. I'm going to Longxi in Guangzhou. I don't have time for now. Let's wait for some time. Old Chen was rather disappointed, but he did not mind. He asked again, oh yeah, since Sikong Ao died, the Martial Alliance chief position is vacant. Do you want to take it? To the ancient martial world, the position of the Martial Alliance chief was no different from an ancient emperor. As soon as one took the position, one would definitely rule the ancient martial world in China. Apart from Yi Chun, it was only natural that ordinary people would not be qualified for this position. After all, he could even kill Sikong Ao. He was undoubtedly the number one in China. It's boring. Let whoever wants to be the chief. Yi Chun said nonchalantly and left the military courtyard in a carefree manner. The corner of Old Chin's lips twitched hard as he watched him leave. It's boring? I'm just afraid that you'll kill someone else to be the chief. The next morning, Yi Chun and the rest woke up early. Since they were going to Longxi today, the Ghost Rider Sect Mountain Gate had been delayed for a long time. Su Yuhan rummaged through her clothes and looked at herself in the mirror. She would turn her head to look at Yi Chun every now and then and say, "Dummy, what do you think about me wearing this?" A certain lady was very happy. She had been locked up by the Su family for over 2 years and had little contact with the outside world. Yi Chun had basically been staying at home for the past few days since he rescued her. She had never gone out to play. Now that Yi Chun was bringing her on a trip, it was no different from traveling the world as a family. How could she not be happy? Yi Chun said in between tears and laughter when he saw her anticipating gaze, "You look good in anything, but it's a little bad. What's wrong with it?" Su Yuhan turned around and looked at him with a smile. There was killing intent in her beautiful eyes, as if she was saying, "Try saying that if you dare." The bad thing is that it's too beautiful. Yi Chun shook his head lightly and said in all seriousness, "You're dressed so beautifully. It's very stressful for me to walk with you. It's very annoying. Moreover, I don't like other men to keep staring at you." "Fool, so you're actually this straight? But you seem to be right. After all, I'm hot and beautiful." Su Yuhan giggled happily. Yi Chun walked over and pinched her face with his supernatural power. He said a while later, "All right, look at me now." She looked into the mirror by instinct and cursed. "Bastard, you've made me so much uglier. My skin has turned yellow and my chin is bigger." If her appearance could be rated 10 points before, now it was only left with 7 points. This score could still be considered a beauty, but compared to before, the difference was too big. "Don't worry, I'll change you back when we get back. Besides, it's pretty good. This way, we won't have a lot of trouble along the way." Yi Chun, on the other hand, nodded in satisfaction. He would really be annoying if he brought a beauty along. Moreover, he did not want other men to look at his woman lustfully, so he could only pinch Su Yuhan's face for her. Su Yuhan rolled her eyes at him angrily, but she accepted the reality. When the duo walked out of the room, they saw Yi Wushuang sitting on the couch, dressed neatly. He was still dressed in white. Together with his long hair, he looked like a young man in ancient times. Yi Chun thought about it and said, "Wushuang, you should change your look too. Try to look more like a modern man." "Brother, change my look?" Yi Wushuang was stunned. He had always dressed like that, although he never changed his clothes or showered. Since he was a sword spirit, his body was spotless. It did not matter whether he showered or not. That's right. Your brother made you look like this. Su Yuhan nodded and picked a photo of Wu Yifan in a suit from her phone to show him. She then returned to the room and passed the suit that she bought for Yi Chun to him. Yi Wushuang hesitated for a moment. Eventually, he suppressed the discomfort and returned to the room to change. Su Yuhan was dumbstruck when he came out. She saw a handsome man who was 8 meters tall, with a buzz cut standing before her in a suit. He had a cold aura and was not girly at all. He was like an aloof Prince Charming in Korean dramas. Su Yuhan looked at him for a while and sighed softly. You're really handsome. I can't believe you look even more handsome in modern clothes. Wushuang, it's such a pity that you're not an actor. Otherwise, you'd be the nation's Prince Charming. I wonder how many ladies would fall for you. She glanced at Yi-chan wryly as she spoke to this point. If I'd met Wushuang earlier, you might have lost your chance. Yi-chan shook his head while smiling. He knew that Su Yuhan was joking with him on purpose. However, he was a little envious after Yi Wushuang changed his attire. He was even thinking if he should change his look too to make himself more handsome. However, he decided not to do that after thinking about it. I'm me. I'm different. Sis, you're up so early today. An incomparably lazy voice sounded. Then, the door to the next room opened, and Su Yue walked out in a nightgown with sleepy eyes. However, in the next moment, she was completely stunned. She looked at Yi Wushuang blankly as disbelief filled her beautiful eyes. Why you? Halfway through her words, she hurriedly returned to her room and only came out after 10 minutes of dressing herself up. Her cheeks were as red as a tomato. She dare not look at Yi Wushuang at all. Sister, are you guys going out? Yes, your brother-in-law wants to bring us to Ganzhou, Su Yuhan said while smiling. Su Yue subconsciously said, I want to go too. She peeked at Yi Wushuang secretly after saying that. To her disappointment, Yi Wushuang had no expression on his face. You don't have to go. We're going to take care of business. Yi-chan glanced at her. Initially, he only wanted to bring Su Yuhan there. However, he figured that his daughter would definitely not want to be separated from her parents. Moreover, Yi Wushuang would be with him 24 hours a day. Su Yue opened her mouth, but in the end, she did not dare to refute and could only hang her head in disappointment. Ever since the Su family was destroyed, one could say that she was filled with reverence for Yi-chun now. She dare not speak to him normally. Later on, Su Yuhan went to wake Ming up. After urging her to wash up, the few of them headed straight to the airport after breakfast. 3 hours later, the plane landed at Ganzhou Airport. Yi-chan brought the mother and daughter to try Ganzhou's local Lanzhou ramen first. One must admit that women had no resistance when it came to delicious food. Su Yuhan was no exception. She turned into a foodie at any moment. No wonder Ming inherited her genes. After staying for an hour, Yi-chan contacted a bus that was heading to Longxi. However, the seats in the bus were basically full. There were only 3 seats left in the last row, and there were 2 girls sitting by the window. As soon as he sat down, Yi Wushuang's appearance attracted many people's attention. At that moment, a quiet lady sitting by the window next to Yi Wushuang could not help but glance at him. She extended her hand to him in a friendly manner. Hello, my name is Yushasha. Chapter 272. Hearing this, Yi-chun, who was sitting on Yi Wushuang's left, could not help but glance at her. He saw that she was in her early 20s. She was pretty with a blush on her cheeks. Beside her was another woman, who had fallen asleep on her companion's shoulder. Su Yuhan gave Yi-chan a wry look as if she was saying, Look, another chick is hitting on your brother. Yi Wushuang was unmoved by Yushasha's kindness, as if he did not see her extending her hand. Yushasha's smile froze, and she weakly withdrew her hand. She felt a little wronged. It was rare to see such a handsome man, but she didn't expect him to be so cold. Yi-chan said while smiling, My friend is a little unsociable. He doesn't like to talk to strangers. I hope you don't mind. Yi-chan glanced at Yi Wushuang as he spoke to this point. Wushuang, she's taking the initiative to greet you. You should at least respond. This kid was cold to everyone. He was going to be single for the rest of his life. Yi Wushuang. Wushuang said indifferently. After that, there was nothing else. It's all right. Yu Shasha shook her head immediately and smiled sweetly at Yi Chun. My name is Yu Shasha. Yi Chun. Yi Chun smiled lightly. Su Yuhan. Su Yuhan carried Meng Meng in her arms and introduced herself. The atmosphere became livelier. Yu Shasha took a good look at Yi Chun and the rest and said while smiling, Yi Chun, you guys aren't from Ganzhou, are you? I don't think you two have the same accent. No. Yi Chun began talking to her, while Yu Wushuang, on the other hand, was stuck in the middle and said nothing. Half an hour after the car had left, the woman beside Yu Shasha also woke up. She rubbed her eyes and revealed a pair of delicate wrists. Shasha, who are you talking to? Why are you smiling so happily? Yi Chun took a good look at her and realized that Yu Shasha's appearance was sweet enough. However, this lady was even more beautiful than Yu Shasha. She was comparable to Yin Ning, Xiaoya, and the rest. However, there was a hint of indifference on his face, and there was a hint of coldness between his brows. Sister Shui, you're awake. I'm talking to Yi Chun and the rest. Yu Shasha introduced Yi Chun and the rest to her with a smile. Yi Chun had just found out that her name was Murong Shui. She and Yu Shasha were Year 4 students at Lanzhou University. To avoid her suitors, she came out with her best friend during the summer break. Murong Shui began to take a good look at Yi Chun and the rest. She only took a quick glance at them after noticing that they were not outstanding. However, a hint of surprise flashed through her beautiful eyes when she noticed Yi Wushuang. She took the initiative to nod lightly at him. However, Yi Wushuang was even colder than her. He neither spoke nor nodded. Murong Shui frowned at his attitude. To her, Yi Wushuang was indeed the most handsome and elegant man she had ever seen. However, Murong Shui did not think she was that shallow. A pretty face can't make a living. At most, it was worth a second glance. A man's greatest charm lies in whether he is successful, and the criteria for success are status, ability, and wealth. When she thought of this, Murong Shui looked away and said nothing. She lowered her head and began to play with her phone. Yi Chun did not mind. With Murong Shui's appearance, it was normal for her to be a little arrogant. On the other hand, Yu Shasha got along well with Yi Chun and the rest. She was chattering, and she was not scheming at all. The car stopped halfway when it passed by a village in the city. An old man got into the car. The old man looked to be approximately 60 years old. He had a pointy mouth and cheeks like a monkey's. The smell of alcohol filled the car as soon as he got in. For the first time, the driver turned his head and forced an extremely attentive smile. Master Ma, are you going to Longxi again? The old man nodded proudly. He did not even buy a ticket and grabbed the handrail directly. He said rather unhappily, Old Huang, are there no seats left? Oh, Master Ma, you're unlucky. All the seats are taken today. Why don't you hold on a little longer? We'll be arriving in half an hour. The driver smiled apologetically immediately. Bullsh *T. When did I not sit down when I came up? Since there's no seat, I'll think of a way to free one. The old man scoffed and began observing the situation in the car while grabbing the handrail. Everyone's expression tensed. They looked away immediately, trying their best not to look at him. They were all smart people. Judging from the driver's attitude toward the old man, they knew that he was not someone to be messed with. The old man smiled proudly and glanced at the last row. When he saw Yu Shasha and Murong Shui sitting by the window, his eyes lit up. His eyes lit up and he staggered over. He glanced coldly at Yi Wushuang. Get up, young man. Yi Wushuang glared at him coldly. He remained still and said nothing. Why do I want him to get up? Yi Chun frowned. Look at me. I'm so old. Shouldn't young people like you give up your seats to me? Respecting the old and loving the young is the traditional virtue that young people like you should follow. The old man said in a matter-of-fact manner. He had his eyes on Yu Shasha and Murong Shui, who were next to Yi Wushuang, when he said that. A hint of lust flashed through his eyes. Sensing his gaze, Yu Shasha moved closer to Murong Shui by instinct. She held her breath hard. The reason being the old man was just too smelly. Yi Chun suddenly smiled upon hearing what the old man said. Is there a law that says young people must give up their seats to old people? What do you mean? The smile on the old man's face turned cold. Don't you guys respect the old and love the young? Don't you have any manners? What did your parents teach you? His voice was so loud that it attracted everyone's attention on the bus. Everyone chose to remain silent and watch the show. They were even secretly glad that the old man did not come to them. At that moment, the driver stopped the bus and turned his head to say, "Brother, please give up your seat to Master Ma." He even signaled Yi Chun with his eyes as he spoke. "Old man, let's talk nicely. Don't use moral coercion," Su Yuhan, who was carrying Ming Ming, could not help but say. She had heard that there would always be old people taking seats on the bus because of their seniority. Never had she thought that she would really encounter it. What moral coercion? The old man exploded as if he was triggered. He said while glaring at Su Yuhan angrily, "Your mother too. Is this how you teach your child? You're such a bad mother." Su Yuhan was stunned. What's wrong with young people nowadays? Is it so hard to give up your seat to an old man like me? Is this the corruption of morality or the loss of humanity? The more the old man spoke, the angrier he got. "If you guys don't give up your seat to me today, I'll get a reporter to report this. The people in the country will see your faces." Hearing that, Yu Shasha and Murong Shui were furious. At that moment, Yi Chen stood up and scoffed. "Old thing? Are you trying to compare your age with us? I'm thousands of years older than you. You're the one who should give up your seat to us. Don't use moral coercion every time you speak. It's our duty to give up our seat to you." Yi Chun sat down again after saying that. Yi Chen sat down again and said to Yi Wu Shuang, "Throw him out." The old man's expression changed as soon as he said that. The old man's expression changed. Yi Wu Shuang stood up and dragged him to the bus door. He tossed him out like he was tossing a dead dog. Everyone was dumbstruck. Yu Shasha and Murong Shui secretly cheered. The driver could not help but sigh. "Brother, you guys are in trouble." Chapter 273. Evil Stay-at-Home Dad in the City. Chapter 273. If you beg me, I can help you. Third update. Urban Romance. G-Kickums. Please note. Please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading straight face. Add a bookmark. Recommend this book. Chapter 273. If you beg me, I can help you. 3 p.m. Godfather Ma is not someone to be trifled with. If you throw him out, he will definitely take revenge on you. The driver said to Yi Chun and Yi Wu Shuang while looking at them, "Little brothers, I'm advising you guys to get out of the car now. I can refund you the fare." As he spoke, he took out his wallet to look for change. "No need." Yi Chun smiled lightly. He got Yi Wu Shuang to throw the old man out purely to punish him. If he really wanted to take revenge, Yi Chun would not show any mercy. At that moment, Murong Shui, who had been quiet, seemed to have recalled something. She looked at Yi Chun and said, "I advise you guys to get out of the car now. You guys really can't afford to offend that old man." She had heard from others that there was often an old man in this area who would threaten women in the name of taking a ride in the car. It was useless even if the victims called the police. This old man must be Elder Ma from before. Yi Chun smiled and said nothing. Murong Shui frowned when she saw that he didn't seem to care at all. She snorted inwardly and looked away. "You don't know how to appreciate kindness." The driver shook his head. He had no choice but to restart the car and continue driving forward. He deliberately sped up. Yi Wu Shuang sat down again. Yu Shasha didn't think so much. Instead, she widened her eyes and looked at him curiously. "You look like you're only 17 or 18, right? How can he be so strong?" The scene of Yi Wu Shuang tossing the old man away single-handedly shocked her. One must know that the old man was a fatty who weighed at least 150 kilograms. However, Yi Wu Shuang lifted him with one hand. How strong must he be? Hearing this, Murong Shui could not help but glance at Yi Wu Shuang. And please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. BSB. She had noticed that Yi Wu Shuang had mentioned the old man earlier. However, to her, Yi Wu Shuang might have trained, which was why he was so strong. Such a person could only use brute force. He could deal with 1 or 2 ordinary people, but he would not be able to deal with 8 or 10 of them, let alone an ancient martial art practitioner. He was still too young and impulsive. She shook her head to herself. Yi Wushuang said nothing to Yu Shasha's question. Yu Shasha was not mad either. After all, she knew Yi Wushuang's character a little better. After driving for about 2 kilometers, the car suddenly stopped. Someone in the car asked subconsciously, "Sir, we haven't arrived yet. Why did you stop?" "Someone has set up a roadblock in front." The driver looked at the road ahead and smiled bitterly. What I was worried about still happened. Everyone subconsciously looked over. A few logs suddenly appeared in the middle of the road 10 meters ahead, blocking the way arrogantly. There were also 2 young men in black sleeveless shirts and slippers standing on the side of the road. Before the crowd could react, a series of intense accelerations came from the back of the car. Yi Chan sensed through his divine consciousness that 2 BMWs were driving over at high speed. Meanwhile, the old man that Yi Wushuang had tossed out earlier was sitting in one of the cars. However, he had a vengeful smile on his face at the moment. The 2 cars drove directly to the front of the bus. Subsequently, over 10 men in suits and ties with steel pipes and machetes walked out of the cars. The leader was a young man with yellow hair. The yellow-haired young man held a baseball bat in his hand and walked toward the bus step by step. He hit the door of the bus with the bat and shouted, "Open the door! Who bullied my dad just now? Get out of the bus now!" Bang! The bat smashed the glass of the bus door directly. The glass shards scattered all over the ground, scaring the people in the bus and shrieking and shaking their heads. The bus driver shuddered and turned his head to look at Yi Chan. "Little brother, I asked you to get out of the bus earlier, but you didn't listen to me. That old man is his dad? How's that possible? If he had such a powerful son, would he still need to take the bus?" Yu Shasha said as her face turned pale. The driver said in exasperation, "What you guys don't know is that his name is Ma Bing. He's Godfather Ma's son. He used to be a local thug here, but due to the development, Ma Bing hooked up with a developer. He's now a local thug within 50 kilometers with tens of people under him. Although Godfather Ma doesn't live with Ma Bing, he's using his son's name to intimidate others. Even the county chief can't do anything to him." At this point, he paused for a moment and said, "To be precise, the county magistrate is afraid of the developer behind Ma Bing. It is said that his name is Brother Ba, and he is famous in Longxi. He has 10 construction teams under him and up to 1,000 people. These people are people who can carry bricks and kill people." Doesn't that mean that Yi Chun and the rest are doomed? Yu Shasha's face turned pale. She looked at Murong Shuen next to her and said immediately, "Sister Shue, what should we do? What should we do? Hurry up and think of a way. Little brother, you're the one who caused this. It has nothing to do with us. That's right. Get out now. We're on our way. Don't waste our time. Driver, open the door now. Get them out." The other passengers were shocked too. They began scolding Yi Chun and Yi Wushuang one after another. They did not care what would happen to Yi Chan if he got out. Sister Shue? Reminder, please rest your eyes after reading for a long time. Recommended reading. Yu Shasha looked at Murong Shue with a begging expression. She really could not bear to see anything happen to Yi Chun and Wu Shuang. Murong Shue glared at Yi Chun coldly. "I reminded you earlier out of kindness, but you didn't listen to me." Even Su Yuhan could not help but grab Yi Chun's hand. Yi Chun smiled calmly and got up to get out after patting her hand to get her mind at ease. "Yi Chun, don't get out. They'll beat you to death," Yu Shasha said, feeling sorry for him. There were more than 10 people with Ma Bing, and all of them were armed. They were filled with killing intent. Yi Wushuang and Yi Chun were no match for them at all. Yi Chun shook his head lightly. "Don't worry. They're just a bunch of trash. I'll come back after I'm done with them." "Why are you still acting tough at a time like this?" Murong Shue said angrily. "There'll only be 2 outcomes for you when you get out. You'll either be beaten half to death, or you'll have to kneel and kowtow to them." Sister Shue. Yu Shasha's expression changed. Murong Shue paused and said, "But for Shasha's sake, I can help you if you beg me. Thank you for your kindness." Yi Chun got out of the car after saying that. Yi Wushuang followed after him. He would go wherever Yi Chun went. Su Yuhan followed him while carrying Ming Ming. "Sister Shue, please help them. Yi Chun's wife and daughter are here. What if they hurt the kids by accident?" Yu Shasha could not stop shaking Murong Shue's arm. Anxiety filled her face. Murong Shui was from the Murong clan. If she was willing to help, nobody in the entire Ganzhou would dare to offend them. Murong Shui rolled her eyes upon hearing that. Murong Shui rolled her eyes and said, "Do you think I'm a god? I'm just a disciple from a branch of the Murong clan. They won't even know my name if I go down like this." "Then what should we do?" Yu Shasha was almost crying. Murong Shui shook her head lightly as determination flashed through her face. "Forget it. I'll help him this time." After saying that, she picked up her phone and made a call. P.S. There are 2 more chapters. Chapter 274. Murong Shui had come out this time to avoid her suitors. To avoid attracting attention, she did not drive. Instead, she chose to squeeze into the bus with Yu Shasha. To her, apart from Yi Wushuang, Yi Chun and the rest were dressed plainly, had an ordinary aura, and were squeezing into the bus. They must be ordinary people. Usually, people like them would not attract her attention. She would treat them as passers-by at most. Therefore, when Ma Bing brought his men to block the way, she did not have high hopes for Yi Chun. However, she could not resist her best friend Yu Shasha's begging. She could only agree to help Yi Chun reluctantly. That was why she chose to call the number that she was unwilling to make. The phone was picked up a few seconds after it rang. Subsequently, an impatient voice came from the other end. "Who is this?" "Uncle Dong. It's me, Xiaoxue," Murong Shui said in her sweet voice after taking a light breath in. "Xiaoxue?" The person on the phone was a little surprised. Subsequently, he recognized her. "Are you Xiaoxue from Murong Cheng's family?" "That's right." Murong Shui nodded immediately and said while smiling, "That's me, Uncle Dong. You have such a good memory." "Oh." The person gave a short response, but his attitude was not exactly friendly. "Oh, it's you. Is there anything I can help you with?" "Uncle Dong, I'm at Shilatang now. There's a misunderstanding between my friend and an underling called Brother Ba, so I'd like to ask for your help." Murong Shui was a little embarrassed as she spoke to this point. "Brother Ba?" The person was slightly stunned. Subsequently, he snapped back to his senses. "Are you talking about Ba Quan?" "It should be him." "All right, I know what to do. Don't worry," the person said slowly. "Thank you, Uncle Dong." Murong Shui was overjoyed. "It's nothing." After Murong Shui hung up, Yu Shasha, who had been nervous, asked immediately, "Sister Shui, how was it?" "Nothing. Let's go take a look." Murong Shui's smile was rather bitter. The Uncle Dong that she mentioned was actually a boss in Ganzhou. His name was Dong Chunwen. Although he was not as powerful as the Murong clan, he was rather influential in this land. Last year, when Dong Chunwen's mother celebrated her 80th birthday, Murong Shui and her father, Murong Chung, attended the party. They could be considered acquaintances, but their friendship wasn't very deep. After all, she was only from a branch of the Murong family. Before making the call, Murong Shui wasn't very confident. She didn't think he'd actually agree. She could not help but shake her head secretly as she thought to this point. She felt that it was not worth it to waste this favor on someone unrelated to her, Yi Chun. But since it had already happened, she couldn't complain anymore. She could only lead Yu Shasha down. Outside the car, as Yi Chun and Yi Wushuang got off, the blond young man, Ma Bing, took a good look at them coldly. Subsequently, he turned his head and said to the old man from before, "Dad, who threw you out of the car?" The old man glanced at Yi Chun and Yi Wushuang resentfully. He stretched his arm and pointed at Yi Wushuang. He said while smiling in a creepy manner, "It's this brat." He pointed at Yi Chun as he spoke to this point. "This brat is involved too. He was the one who asked someone to throw me down." The young man named Brother Ba was hugging a beauty. His hands could not stop roaming the beauty's body as he watched the scene in mockery. Ma Bing then looked at Yi Chun and said with a scoff, "Brat, your people threw my dad out of the car, and he hurt his body. What do you think we should do about this?" "What do you want?" Yi Chun said expressionlessly. "It's simple." Ma Bing extended 2 fingers and waved them. "I'll give you 2 choices. Either I break your legs, or you pay for the medical fees and kowtow to my dad to apologize. I won't charge you much for the medical fees. You guys don't look like you have money. How about this? I'll give you 200,000 yuan. If you don't have enough money, call your family to transfer it to you." However, Yi Chun shook his head. Brat, why are you shaking your head? Are you unwilling? Ma Bing's expression turned grim. 200,000 yuan is too little, Yi Chun said coldly. How about this? I'll give you 1,000,000 yuan to buy your dad's life. The old man was enraged as soon as he said that. The elder flew into a rage. Soldier, don't waste your breath on him. Break one of his legs first. Cripple him first. Ma Bing waved his hand, and 2 tall and strong men leaped out from behind him. Both of them held sticks in their hands. Su Yuhan's expression changed. Yi Chun and Yi Wushuang's expressions turned cold. Wait. At that moment, a squeal came from the bus. Subsequently, Murong Shui walked over quickly with Yushasha. Ma Bing and the rest stared at the 2 ladies as soon as they saw them. They checked Murong Shui up and down in a perverted manner. A lecherous gleam flashed through the old man's eyes. You 2 be asterisk cheese. I'll show you what it means to be a pushover later. Even Brother Ba, who was standing aside, did the same. He said while smiling after taking a good look at Murong Shui. Old Master Ma, you've got great taste this time. He knew the old man very well. He was an old pervert. Throughout the past year, he had no idea how many times he had molested women on the bus. He had even raped a few of them. Yichen looked at Murong Shui in slight surprise. He had no idea why she had come down all of a sudden. Brother Ba, can you let my friend go for my sake? Murong Shui walked directly to Brother Ba. For your sake? Brother Ba took a good look at her from head to toe and said while smirking, Sister, your face isn't worth much, but your body is. How about this? I'll let this go if the both of you sleep with me for a night. You're shameless. Yushasha cursed by instinct out of anger. She had yet to step out of society, so she had never come into contact with such a filthy person. Shameless. Ma Bing could not help but say while laughing, It's none of your business. Scram now, or I'll strip you and get my brothers to take turns. Get out of my way. I can handle this myself, Yichen said while frowning. You can handle this? Murong Shui was dying to stuff his mouth. Do you know that I've wasted a huge favor for you? You should know what's good for you. She said to Brother Ba while suppressing her rage, Brother Ba, I've already called 9th Master Dong. Surely you can do him a favor, right? Yichen smiled. Dong Chung Wen. Brother Ba's expression changed slightly. In Ganzhou, 9th Master Dong was rather famous. Even he, Ba Quan, could not offend him unless the person behind him was willing to support him. Even Ma Bing was shocked. He said after a scoff, Do you think we'll believe you just because you say you know 9th Master Dong? He thought Murong Shui was just bluffing. That's right. How can we believe you without any evidence? I'll only believe you if you get 9th Master Dong to talk to me personally, Brother Ba said while nodding. Just as he was talking, his cell phone rang. Brother Ba picked up the call, and a man on the other end of the line started scolding him. Ba Quan, are you King tired of living? How dare you touch 9th Master's friend? Let them go now. What? Hungry Tiger, did you take some gunpowder? Why are you so angry? Brother Ba was fearless now that it was not 9th Master Dong who called. Stop pretending. You don't have the right to order me. If you wanted to let them go, sure. Get 9th Master to talk to me personally or get my boss, Bandit, to give him the nod. Brother Ba hung up the phone as soon as he was done speaking. Subsequently, he looked at Yi Chun and Murong Shui with a smirk on his face. I'll be frank with you today. If Master Jio doesn't say anything, don't even think about leaving. Although 9th Master Dong was powerful, Brother Ba's boss, Bandit, was not weak either. His position was similar to Hungry Tiger's, so why should he be bullied? Murong Shui's expression changed upon hearing that. She finally panicked a little. Never had she thought that 9th Master Dong, who had promised to treat her well, would send one of his underlings to call Ba Quan. Not only did she fail to help Yi Chun, but she also triggered Ba Quan and got herself into trouble. She glared at Yi Chun hatefully as she thought to this point. She was filled with regret. I'm dead because of you. Yushasha held her hand tightly, feeling guilty. She knew that she had dragged Murong Shui into this. At that moment, Yichen looked at Brother Ba and asked all of a sudden, Is your boss called Bandit? P.S. Fourth update. Chapter 275. Evil stay-at-home dad in the city, chapter 275. He's not worthy of my acquaintance. Fifth update. Urban romance. G-Kickums. Please note. Please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. Divid equals link right. Add a bookmark. Recommend this book. Chapter 275. He's not worthy of my acquaintance. 5 p.m. Your boss is called Bandit? Brother Ba and Ma Bing were stunned to hear what Yichen said. Ma Bing scoffed. Brat, don't tell me that you know our boss. When he said this, his face was full of disdain. Brother Ba's face was full of mockery. Murong Shui couldn't help but shake his head. He had heard of Bandit before. His status in Gan province was higher than Ninth Master Dong's. This was because Bandit was known for his ruthlessness. Anyone who offended him would not end up well. However, Yichen acted as if he knew such a ruthless person. Is the Bandit's surname Du? Yichen asked again. Just as Ma Bing was about to speak, Brother Ba's expression changed. His expression was extremely cold as he said, How did you know? Do you really know our boss? People only knew the name of bandits, but they did not know their real names. Even Ma Bing did not know their names. However, Brother Ba was suspicious that an ordinary person like Yi Chun could say the bandit's surname. Yi Chun shook his head lightly with his hands behind his back. He doesn't deserve to know me. So what you're saying is that our boss knows you, but you don't know him. Ma Bing sneered, full of ridicule. Murong Shui shook her head again. Crazy. This kid is crazy. He actually dares to arrange bandits like this. He's simply courting death, Yi Chun said coldly. He'll be scared out of his wits if he hears my name. Brother Ba looked at Yi Chun with a grim expression. Brat, I'll give you another chance. How did you know our boss's surname is Du? Yi Chun shook his head lightly. Please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. He picked up his phone and dialed Lin Tai's number. He said directly, I'm at Shilatang, which leads to Longxi from Ganzhou. A bandit's underling offended me. He's called Brother Ba. Do as you see fit. After saying this, he hung up the phone. Brother Ba, there's something wrong with this kid's head. Let's not waste time talking to him. Let's break on his hands first. Let's see if his mouth will still be as tough as it is now. Ma Bing could not wait any longer. At that moment, Brother Ba's phone rang. He could not help but jolt when he saw the name on the notification. He looked at Yi Chun and then at his phone. He picked it up after gulping. Yes, boss. I deserve to die. Understood. I know what to do. Brother Ba nodded at the phone and broke out in a cold sweat. Ma Bing had a bad feeling about this. Murong Shui could not help but look at Yi Chun. Did he really know the bandits? The next moment, Brother Ba hung up the phone and knelt before Yi Chun. He said in complete fear, Mr. Yi, I failed to recognize you. I hope you won't. Brother Ba, what are you doing? Why are you kowtowing to this kid? Ma Bing was completely dumbfounded. Pa! Brother Ba slapped him hard and said while gritting his teeth, Be ***, you almost killed me. Kneel before Mr. Yi now. Ba Quan now had the intention to kill Ma Bing, because the boss bandit was roaring and roaring on the phone, as if he was frightened by something. Even his voice was trembling. He was not stupid. He knew that he and the others had kicked an iron plate. This iron plate was even more powerful than the bandits. Ma Bing knelt before Yi Chun immediately. He said while stammering while covering his face, And Mr. Yi, please don't hold grudges against me. See, just let me go like I'm a fart. All of a sudden, Ma Bing's father was stunned. Murong Shui was stunned. Yu Shasha was stunned. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Yi Chun said nothing and walked straight to the old man. What do you want? The old man's expression changed. However, Yi Chun crushed his throat before he was done speaking. He was tossed onto the ground like a dead dog. Before the people could react, Yi Chun took out a bank card and tossed it to Ma Bing. There's $1 million in there. The password is 66666. Buy your father's life. He led Yi Wushuang and Su Yuhan back to the car after saying that. Although the people in the car did not get off, they saw what happened earlier. They retreated in fear from Yi Chun, not daring to look him in the eye. After they sat down, Ba Quan got them to clear the road. The driver started the car again and drove 5 kilometers away. Yu Shasha looked at Yi Chun with her eyes wide open. Yi Chun, do you know that bandit? I don't know him, but he knows me. Yichen shook his head lightly. When he had just returned to Earth, he had been playing games at the internet cafe with Yi-Wen and the rest. His colleague, Lu Feng, had gotten into a fight with a young man with the family name Du. Yichen only found out from Lin Tai that the young man with the family name Du was the bandit's son. Therefore, he recalled the bandit when Brother Bomb mentioned him. Otherwise, he would not have any impression of him. Why does he know you but you don't know him? Morong Shui was confused. Tip, please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. Yichen smiled calmly. That's because I'm a martial Dao master who's famous in China. I'm someone that everyone looks up to. You're bragging. Morong Shui scoffed, thinking that he was bragging. She could not help but mock him. Don't think that you can do whatever you want in Ganzhou just because the bandits are afraid of you. In reality, the bandits are just bosses on the surface in Ganzhou. They're just small fries to the real bosses. She paused as she spoke to this point and continued rather proudly. For example, my Morong clan is a real wealthy clan in Ganzhou. Yichen smiled and said nothing after noticing that she did not believe him. Instead, he turned around and began talking to Su Yuhan. Morong Shui pouted. To her, Yichen should be a disciple of some clan. She could not help but think to herself, there seemed to be no wealthy clan with the family name Yi in China. He must be a disciple of a small clan. She secretly shook her head as she thought to this point. Half an hour later, the bus finally arrived at the bus station in Longxi County. They parted ways as soon as they got off the bus. Yu Shasha looked reluctant. To be exact, she was reluctant to part ways with Yi Wushuang. After all, having such a handsome guy like Yi Wushuang sitting next to her throughout the journey was something to behold. Remember to keep a low profile when you guys are in Longxi. Morong Shui glanced at Yi Chun before leaving. She said after some hesitation, look for me at the Morong clan if you encounter any trouble that you can't solve. Yi Chun agreed, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. He then parted ways with the duo. He brought Su Yuhan and his daughter to a nearby 3-star hotel to settle down. Later on, he brought them out for dinner and tasted some delicacies. At night, Ming Ming curled up in Su Yuhan's embrace, asking for ice cream. Yichen could only buy it for her. When they were passing by an alley, Yichen suddenly glanced behind him. Subsequently, he vanished from where he was in the blink of an eye. Soon, a middle-aged man with a face full of pockmarks walked to where Yichen had been standing earlier. He looked around and mumbled, "Where is he? Why did he disappear all of a sudden?" At that moment, a big hand suddenly patted his shoulder from behind. The man jolted and turned his head to look. Panic filled his face. Yichen said, "Tell me, why are you following me?" Chapter 276. Yichen suddenly appeared behind her. This startled the middle-aged man. When he came to his senses, he rolled his eyes and shook his head. "Who's following you? Don't tell me that I'm following you just because I'm walking the same path as you." "Really?" Yichen chuckled softly and stopped asking. He squeezed the hand that was on his shoulder softly. With a cracking sound, the middle-aged man immediately screamed, "Stop, stop pinching, I'll talk." Only then did Yichen let him go. This guy had been following him for a long time. He had been following them from afar since they left the Longxi bus station. Yichen's divine consciousness had sensed all of that. However, since Yichen did not sense any hostility from him, he did not perform the soul-searching tactic on him. The middle-aged man shook his shoulder and sucked in a breath of cold air from the pain. "Brother, you're here to participate in the pill exchange conference, right?" "What elixir exchange?" Yichen frowned slightly. "Stop pretending." The middle-aged man thought that he didn't want to admit it, so he grinned and said, "I've been following you all the way, and I know that you're not from Longxi. In the past 2 days, there have been many people like you, and they're all here for the pill exchange conference." At this point, he paused for a moment and rubbed his hands together. "I saw that you were outsiders and unfamiliar with this place, so I wanted to be your tour guide. However, I didn't dare to approach you, so I followed you from afar. In the past few days, countless people from other provinces had come to Longxi to participate in the Elixir Exchange Conference. Some unemployed people in Longxi took the opportunity to work as tour guides and earn a lot of money. Therefore, he could not help but have such thoughts. He had his eyes on Yi Chun as soon as he started work. but he did not have the courage to greet him until Yi Chen found him. Medicinal pill exchange? Yi Chen's heart jolted. He didn't expect that he would be able to come across the elixir exchange on his trip to Longxi. This was good too. He could go and see if he could take it back. He had always wanted to refine the age-retaining pill, but he lacked a herb at the moment. If he could gather all of them, he would refine the age-retaining pill for Su Yuhan and his parents. The so-called face-retaining pill could keep one's appearance in the state before taking the pill. Even after a few decades, one would not age. Yi Chen asked immediately, "Where will the medicinal pill exchange be held? When does it start?" "About that." The middle-aged man rubbed his hands, looking as if he wanted to say something, but hesitated. Yi Chen took out 10,000 yuan from his storage ring directly and tossed it into his hand. "Is that enough?" Earlier on, he had taken out 5 million yuan in cash and placed it in his storage ring, saving it for emergency use. Enough. Seeing him suddenly take out 10,000 yuan, the middle-aged man was shocked at first, but then he took the money and beamed with joy. His friends could only earn a few thousand at a time, but he earned 10,000. How could he not be excited? "Boss, my name is Ma Chong. The medicinal pill exchange conference will be held in the Murong family's ancestral home in Dongqing District. It will start at 4 o'clock sharp tomorrow afternoon and will last for 10 days. Ma Chong told him everything he knew in one go. It turned out that the medicinal pill exchange would be held in Ganzhou every year. The organizer was a wealthy family in Ganzhou, the Murong clan. Moreover, it was held in the Murong clan's ancestral home in Longxi. Every this time, countless people would come to participate, and it was said that a 1,000-year-old spirit herb would appear. "Sure, wait for me here at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon." Yi Chen shook his head and said, "You'll be rewarded, but you better not play any tricks." I wouldn't dare. Ma Chong shook his head like a rattledrum. Yi Chen walked to the supermarket across the street and returned to the hotel after buying 2 ice creams for his daughter. The next morning, Su Yuhan asked while putting on a facial mask, "Yi Chen, when are we going to the Ghost Rider Sect Mountain Gate?" "We'll go 2 days later. There's a medicinal pill exchange happening, so I'd like to check it out." Yi Chen peeled a peanut and fed it to Ming Ming. "Sure." Su Yuhan nodded and said while smiling, "I won't go with you. I'd like to bring Ming Ming around. After all, it's rare that we're here. I'll buy something along the way. Also, I'm running out of facial masks. Then, I'll get Wu Shuang to follow you and your daughter." Yi Chen glanced at Yi Wu Shuang. Time flew, and it was the afternoon. Yi Chen only went to the alley last night after Su Yuhan and Yi Wu Shuang left. However, he did not see Ma Chong. He frowned as he realized it was already 4:30 p.m. He suspected that Ma Chong had run away with the money. A ferocious gleam flashed through Yi Chen's eyes as he thought to this point. Did Ma Chong really think that he, Mad Southern Yi, was that gullible? "I'm sorry, boss. I'm late." At that moment, a panting voice came from far away. Ma Chong ran over with 2 dark circles under his eyes, and he was drenched in sweat. "I'm sorry, boss. I served 2 people at the club last night, so I overslept," Ma Chong said while wiping his sweat. Yi Chen shook his head as he looked at his legs that were shaking. He walked to the street and hailed a cab without saying anything. Ma Chong got into the cab and told the driver where to go. Ma Chong yawned as soon as the cab left. "Boss, I heard that the Spiritual Medicine Mountain's Yao family and Wannan's medical family, the Zhang family, will be attending the medicinal pill exchange." "The Spiritual Medicine Mountain?" Yi Chen raised his brows slightly. The Spiritual Medicine Mountain is a medicinal pill refinement sect in Ganzhou. It's said that it originated from the pill refinement master Gahong during the East Jin dynasty. They have monopolized all of the medicinal herbs in the entire Ganzhou. Besides that, they have many herb gardens. It's not an exaggeration to describe them as a giant. Ma Chong introduced. Meanwhile, the Zhang family from Wannan is known as a national medical family. I heard that the old master of the Zhang family is known as a national medical family. He's said to be able to revive the dead and bring the dying back to life. Yi Chen came to a realization and subsequently asked, "How about the Morong family? As the organizer, they should be a medical family, right?" "No." Ma Chong shook his head and said, "The Morong family is a cultivation family. They're the #1 in Ganzhou and lead all of the families in Ganzhou. Even the spiritual medicine mountain has to respect them. A cultivation family? It was Yi Chen's first time hearing that. Ma Chong took a deep breath, and there was a burning desire in his eyes. They're the ones who can cultivate spells. I saw a Murong family disciple lighting up rows of candles with just a wave of his hand. Rumor has it that the Murong family has a very powerful cultivation sage who can freeze water into ice and exhale like thunder. He can even ride on clouds. Ma Chong was spitting saliva as he spoke to this point. Yi Chun chuckled softly, revealing an indifferent expression on his face. To him, any cultivator who had just stepped into cultivation would be able to do those techniques. As for riding on clouds, that must be an exaggeration. Ma Chong panicked a little upon noticing that Yi Chun did not care at all. Boss, I'm telling the truth. You must believe me. Also, you can offend anyone in the entire Ganzhou except for the Murong family. Just when he was speaking, the cab arrived. P.S. Chapter 2 will arrive at 9:30 p.m. Chapter 277. Yi Chun lifted his eyes to look. He saw an ancient manor standing before him. It was majestic like an ancient mansion. Meanwhile, people in all sorts of attire would enter from time to time at the entrance of the manor. Yi Chun realized that most of them were ancient martial artists with a high cultivation base. Although that was the case, they walked in slowly and respectfully because there were two hunks that looked like iron towers standing at the entrance of the manor. The hunks looked straight ahead while the veins on his temples bulged. His aura was intense. Both of their cultivation bases were mastery stage, illuminating pulse experts. No wonder the Murong clan is the leader of Lanzhou. Yi Chun secretly nodded. Although the cultivation base of illuminating pulse was nothing to him, to regular people, it meant that they were invincible below the master level. Now that they were guarding the entrance, one could tell that the Murong clan was extraordinarily powerful. It was no wonder that Murong Shui was so arrogant when she mentioned the Murong clan. Boss, I won't follow you in. This is my phone number. Contact me anytime if anything happens. Ma Chong yawned and gave Yi Chun a name card. Yi Chun nodded lightly and walked to the manor after paying the fare. However, he was stopped by the two bodyguards at the entrance. Stop. Please give us your name card. Yi Chun frowned. What name card? It's where you're from and your identity, one of the bodyguards said expressionlessly. He even took a good look at Yi Chun after saying that, and a gleam of coldness flashed through his eyes. To him, Yi Chun had come alone, empty-handed. There was no energy wave on him at all. Given that he was dressed casually, it was clear that he was trying to take advantage of the situation. I don't have a name card. Yi Chun shook his head lightly. Huh, the hunk scoffed. You can't go in without a name card. Otherwise, you'll end up like them. He stretched his arm and pointed at the private hospital across the manor as he spoke. At the moment, many people were wailing at the entrance of the hospital. Some of them had their arms crippled, while others had their legs broken. Yi Chun shook his head. Just when he was going to turn around and leave, a surprised voice came from behind him all of a sudden. Mr. Yi? He turned his head to look by instinct. There was a Ferrari parked by the road. A young man in a suit walked over in surprise. Meanwhile, there were a young couple standing behind him. It's you. Yi Chun was a little surprised when he saw the young man's face, clearly, because the young man before him was Zhang Zijian, whom he had met on the plane to Beijing last time. It was the young man whom Yi Chun had gotten into a conflict with because he was from the Zhang family of Wannan. Later on, Yi Chun said that he would definitely die within 7 steps. Zhang Zijian walked over and said happily, Mr. Yi, I didn't expect to see you here. It's really fate. After the previous incident, he had become much more mature and polite. He was no longer as arrogant and domineering as before. Zijian, this is? The pretty lady with a cold aura behind Zhang Zijian could not help but glance at Yi Chun. Big sister Mingqi. He's the Mr. Yi that I told you about before who saved my life on the plane. Zhang Zijian smiled and introduced, Mr. Yi, these two are Zhang Mingqi, and this is Zhang Haoshuan. Hearing this, Zhang Mingqi and Zhang Haoshuan could not help but take a good look at Yi Chun. The expressions on their faces turned colder after noticing that Yi Chun looked ordinary. Zijian, is he the miracle doctor that you've been bragging about? Zhang Haoshuan put on a fake smile and said, "You couldn't have been tricked, right? Does this brat deserve to be a miracle doctor in front of my Zhang family of one in? Let's go in." Zhang Mingqi did not speak to Yi Chun. She glanced at Zhang Zijian and passed him a name card. She walked in first. "Mr. Yi, let's go in together," Zhang Zijian said kindly. The hunk standing at the door pointed at Yi Chun and said coldly, "You guys are from the Zhang family of Wannan. You can go in, but this brat can't." Zhang Mingqi, who had stepped in, turned her head by instinct. Zhang Mingqi, who had already taken a step in, turned around subconsciously. Zhang Zijian was a little unhappy. "Why? This brat doesn't have a name card. He can't prove his identity, so he can't go in," the hunk said expressionlessly. Zhang Zijian frowned. "Mr. Yi has saved my life. I can prove that his medical skills are amazing. He's an expert in Chinese medicine." However, the hunk said nothing. "All right, Zijian. This brat doesn't even have a name card. I told you that you've been scammed, but you don't believe me." Zhang Haoshuan dragged Zhang Zijian in forcefully. Zhang Zijian could only turn his head and look at Yi Chun apologetically. At that moment, Zhang Mengqi turned around to look at Yi Chun. She enunciated word for word. "You made Zijian kneel to you on the plane. You must give us an explanation for that." Yi Chun said coldly, "What explanation do you want? My Zhang family's dignity doesn't tolerate any provocation. I'll give you a chance. After the medicinal pill exchange ends, follow me to the Zhang family to ask for forgiveness. Don't you dare run away. My Zhang family's power is beyond your imagination." Zhang Mingqi stopped looking at Yi Chun after saying that. She turned around and led Zhang Haoshuan and the rest in. Before this, she had heard from Zhang Zijian that Yi Chun was a miracle doctor. She thought he was some expert, so she thought she could befriend him. However, not only did she not want to befriend him, but she also wanted to settle the score with Yi Chun for making Zhang Zijian kneel to him. Yi Chun scoffed as he watched them leave. He turned around and planned to leave. "Brat, you can go in if you really want to, but you have to prove that you're capable," the hunk who spoke earlier suddenly said with mockery filling his eyes. Yi Chun lifted his head to look at him. "How do you want to prove it?" The hunk smiled and extended a palm that was the size of a fan. "Come, shake my hand. Show me what you're capable of. If you don't dare to, you can go back to where you came from." The other hunk with a birthmark on his face smirked upon hearing that. If Yi Chun were to shake his hand, his bones would definitely crack. To him, Yi Chun would definitely not dare to do so. However, Yi Chun nodded and extended his left hand to him. "Sure." Both of their hands shook. Crack, crack, crack. The sound of joints cracking came. The hunk with the birthmark revealed an expression as if he had expected it. However, he heard the hunk next to him shriek in pain in the next second. Let go." The hunk with the birthmark looked over immediately. He saw his brother's face turning pale at the moment, and he looked like he was in pain. How was that possible? He could not help but look at Yi Chun. However, Yi Chun's expression remained the same. "Let go." The hunk with the birthmark shouted immediately. Yi Chun let go of his hand softly and said calmly, "Can I go in now?" "Go in," the hunk said while suppressing the pain. Yi Chun chuckled softly and took a step out into the manor. At that moment, many people were gathered there. They were standing in groups of 3 to 5, discussing all sorts of things. All of them were ancient martial artists. At that moment, a surprised voice suddenly came from next to Yi Chun. Yi Chun." Yi Chun lifted his head to look and noticed 2 ladies walking toward him. They were Morong Shui and Yushasha, whom he had not seen for less than a day. He could not help but sigh softly. "I can't believe that I'll bump into them no matter where I go. P.S. There are 3 more chapters. There will be 2 chapters before midnight." Chapter 278. Yushasha ran over while pulling Morong Shui. Shock filled her eyes when she looked at Yi Chun. "Yi Chun, why are you here?" "I'm here to take a look," Yi Chun said while smiling. "Take a look?" Morong Shui frowned. "This isn't a place that you can come to. Also, how did you get in?" Although the Morong clan was organizing the medicinal pill exchange, not everyone could enter. The requirements were extremely strict. Even ordinary people who were worth over 100 million yuan were not allowed to enter. "Of course I walked in." Yi Chun shook his head lightly. "Stop joking. You must have snuck in when nobody was looking." Murong Shui rolled her eyes at him angrily. I'm warning you to get out now. Nobody can save you if they find out. One must know that the Murong clan was against such trickery. On top of that, they would punish them severely. Yichen smiled lightly and said nothing. Murong Shui was pissed to see that he was not afraid of anything. Just when she was going to speak, her phone rang. All right, we have something to do. We won't keep you company. Murong Shui reminded him after hanging up, it's okay if you don't go out, but don't talk nonsense here. Don't offend anyone. Leave as soon as the time is up. After saying this, she took Yushasha and walked toward the corridor across the hall. Yichen lifted his eyes to look around the entire lobby. He noticed that Zhang Mengqi, Zhang Zijian, and the rest were standing in the crowd. They seemed to be talking and laughing. Zhang Haoshuan looked over by instinct, as if he sensed his gaze. The smile on his face froze. How did he get in? He clearly remembered that the hunk at the door did not let Yichen in. What he said caught Zhang Zijian and Zhang Mengqi's attention. Zhang Mengqi frowned when she noticed Yichen. Mr. Yi, I knew that you'd definitely be able to get in. Zhang Zijian walked over rather guiltily. Yichen nodded lightly. Zhang Zijian led him over immediately. He pointed at a middle-aged man with a vertical stripe on his forehead and introduced, Mr. Yi, this is Huang Ting. His nickname is Flying Axe Huang. He's from the Lingnan Medicine King family. Flying Axe Huang took a good look at Yi Chun and said in a neutral manner, I wonder where you're from, Brother Yi. I'm from Tiannan. Yi Chun said in a tone that was neither humble nor arrogant. Tiannan. Flying Axe Huang said solemnly, Tiannan is a good place. Recently, there's a mad Southern Yi who's the #1 in China. He's the legend of us Southerners. Yichen smiled lightly. Is mad Southern Yi that powerful? On the side, Zhang Haoshuan said in a strange tone, I heard that he can control lightning and kill martial Dao masters like dogs. Why don't I believe it? He merely wanted to discuss Yi Chun, the Tiannan man. Flying Axe Huang said in a deep voice, Brother Zhang, watch your words. Zhang Haoshuan didn't think much of it. Just as he was about to say something, there was a commotion in the hall, followed by cheers from the crowd. A few people slowly walked in from the entrance. The leader was an incomparably handsome young man. The young man had a calm temperament and was serious in speech and manner, giving people a feeling that they didn't dare to look directly at him. That's Murong Yang from the Murong clan. He's the one who organized the medicinal pill exchange. Just like the rumors say, Murong Yang's like old Master Murong He. He's loved by the Murong family seniors too. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in charge of such a formal event. As soon as Murong Yang appeared, the atmosphere in the hall became heated. He's Murong Yang? Zhang Haoshuan asked subconsciously. A hint of jealousy flashed across his face. Not bad. Flying Axe Huang nodded and exclaimed, I'm afraid you guys don't know this. Murong Yang entered Dao entry when he was 20. In just 5 short years, he's already at the late stage of Dao entry. The new generation really surpasses the old. As soon as he said that, even Zhang Mengqi, who had always been calm, was shocked. He's already at the late stage of Dao entry? Doesn't that mean there's hope for him to catch up to old Master Muronghi? How could it be that easy? Flying Axe Huang shook his head and said while smiling, Old Master Murong, he is on Illuminating God. His spells are on Illuminating God. Those below Illuminating God are ants. Whether Murong Yang can step foot on Illuminating God depends on his luck. Excitement flashed through his eyes as he spoke to this point. To people in the spell world, Illuminating God was equivalent to martial Dao masters in the ancient martial arts world. They might even be 2 to 3 times more prestigious. It was no wonder that the Murong clan could conquer Lanzhou with a god like Murong He. The crowd was stirred again as they spoke. Another lady walked in after Murong Yang. She was approximately 25 or 26 years old and looked enchanting. Compared to Murong Yang's coldness, the lady seemed much more cheerful. Her every frown and smile captivated everyone's heart. I can't believe that the spiritual medicine mountain sent her this time. Flying Axe Huang was rather surprised. Zhang Mengqi looked at the lady and seemed to be in deep thought. She's Yao Bingyue from the spiritual medicine mountain? That's right. Flying Axe Huang nodded. She's the spiritual medicine mountain's old master Yao's granddaughter, Yao Bingwe. I heard that old master Yao's life is coming to an end, and he's looking for a medicinal pill to extend his life. It seems to be true. Otherwise, Yao Bingwe wouldn't have come herself. A few more people arrived after Yao Bingwe took her seat. Although the commotion was not as big as the first two, it pushed the atmosphere to a climax. Murong Yang lifted his hand to signal everyone to keep quiet after everyone had arrived. He then spoke slowly. He then said slowly, "Everyone, first of all, welcome to the medicinal pill exchange organized by the Murong clan. I, Murong Yang, am still inexperienced, so I hope that everyone can forgive me. At the same time, I hope that everyone will return with a fruitful journey." The medicinal pill exchange began after the opening speech. The place was bustling. "I have a bottle of Maodai made from 200-year-old wild ginseng here. I'd like to exchange it for a medicinal pill that can remove the miasma. Ms. Yao, I've gone through a lot to gather a golden jade pill that could train one's body. I wonder if the spiritual medicine mountain can refine it for me. We can negotiate the price." The people told the purpose of their visit one after another. At that moment, the entire hall was noisy. "Let's go." Zhang Ming took out 2 brocade boxes from her bag and was going to go over. At that moment, she saw Yi Chun take out a piece of chalk out of nowhere and write a line of words under his feet. "Buying tiger bone flower and heavenly star herb. I'm willing to exchange them with medicinal pills or buy them with money." Zhang Haoshuan scoffed when he saw that. Zhang Haoshuan sneered, "You have pills?" He thought that Yi Chun was a liar from the bottom of his heart. Otherwise, he would not have been stopped outside earlier. Yi Chun ignored him directly. Flying Axe Huang and Zhang Mengqi, on the other hand, took a good look at him. They were secretly looking down on Yi Chun less. "Brother Yi, what's the tiger bone flower and heavenly star herb?" Flying Axe Huang asked in confusion. Yi Chun glanced at him and thought to himself, "Aren't you the Lingnan medicine king? You don't even know what those two are." However, he was relieved when he recalled that it was a name from the cultivation world. He smiled lightly. "It's a herb that boosts one's vigor." In reality, the tiger bone flower was one of the main ingredients to refine the rebirth pill for Meng Meng, while the heavenly star herb was the main ingredient to refine the youth-retaining pill. Zhang Haoshuan was filled with disdain when he heard the word vigor. Zhang Haoshuan was filled with disdain. Zhang Mingqi secretly shook her head. At that moment, the trading was over. Someone noticed what Yi Chun wrote on the ground and asked by instinct, "Brother, do you have medicinal pills too?" In this world, most medicinal pills were controlled by the spiritual medicine mountain. Most of the people who participated in the auction came for medicinal pills and traded them with items. The medicinal pills were traded as soon as they were sold. Everyone's attention was attracted as soon as he was done speaking. Even Murong Yang and Yao Bingwe were looking at him. Of course, Yi Chun nodded. Zhang Haoshuan could not help but say, "Don't believe him. He's a liar. How the hell would he have medicinal pills?" P.S. There are 2 chapters left in today's update. As for the 2 chapters that I owe, I'll finish them tonight. Chapter 279. Liar? Zhang Haoshuan's words stunned everyone. Murong Yang, who was at the back of the crowd, looked rather grim. He walked out and looked at Yi Chun. "Brother, you don't look familiar. May I know your name?" "Yi Chun, young Master Murong. This kid is really a swindler. He was stopped outside just now. I don't know what method he used to get in." Seeing that Murong Yang was beginning to suspect Yi Chun, Zhang Haoshuan proceeded to exaggerate. Pride filled his face. As soon as he said that, the people began to look at Yi Chun with hostility. Yao Bingwe smirked as she observed Yi Chun with interest. To her, Yi Chun did not look like someone who had medicinal pills. Zhang Zijin's expression changed, and he hurriedly said, "Young Master Murong, my friend is not a swindler." "Shut up," Zhang Mingqi shouted. "Brother, you said you have pills. Please take them out now and prove yourself." Murong Yang took a deep breath in and said, "The Murong clan welcomes you if you can prove yourself. I'll apologize to you personally. If you can't," he couldn't continue speaking, but the coldness on his face had already revealed everything. Hearing this, Zhang Haoshuan immediately sneered. I'd like to see how you're going to handle this. You want pills? Yichen chuckled softly and put his hand into his clothes. When he took it out again, there was a red medicinal pill in his hand. As soon as the pill was exposed to the air, it immediately emitted a medicinal fragrance. Everyone couldn't help but feel refreshed. The smile on Zhang Haoxuan's face froze. This time, everyone's gaze changed. Zhang Mengqi's expression changed slightly. Morongyang looked surprised. He did not mention that he was going to apologize at all. This is a body-strengthening pill. It can temper one's body, Yichun said calmly. Zhang Haoxuan subconsciously said, "Don't tell me this pill is fake." As soon as he finished speaking, everyone looked at him as if he was an idiot. Fake? How could a fake pill have such a strong medicinal fragrance? Little brother, may I have a look? A red-nosed old man walked out from behind Yao Bingwa. It's Great Master Gu from the Spiritual Medicine Mountain. He's proficient in thousands of medicinal herbs, so he's the most suitable person to test it. No one knew who said it. Yichun nodded lightly. Sure. Master Gu walked directly to Yichun and extended his arm to take the body-strengthening pill. He began studying it at a close distance. Sometimes he would sniff it, and sometimes he would pinch some powder with his hand and put it in his mouth. The next moment, his expression changed instantly and was filled with disbelief. This pill really has the effect of strengthening and tempering the body. Moreover, the effect is very strong. The medicinal power is enough to allow an ancient martial art practitioner in the movement realm to instantly break through to the inner energy realm. Why? The crowd burst into an uproar. They were all shocked by Master Gu's words. It should be known that in this world, although the number of ancient martial arts practitioners was not small, close to 90% of them were stuck in the realm of moves and could only imitate the basics. Only after breaking through to the internal energy stage would one be able to condense energy in one's body. Only then would one's combat power increase dramatically. However, the elixir in front of him could allow a martial artist in the movement realm to instantly break through to the inner energy realm. For a moment, many people's breathing quickened. Zhang Haoxuan's face turned pale. Zhang Mengqi and Morongyang took a good look at Yichun. Meanwhile, Zhang Mengqi's pretty face was shocked, but she did not care. After all, the Spiritual Medicine Mountain could refine such a medicinal pill too, but the effect was not as powerful. Master Gu could not help but look at Yichun. Little brother, do you have more? I'll take as many as my Spiritual Medicine Mountain has. I'm sorry, but I'm only exchanging for the tiger bone flower and the heavenly star herb. I don't need a lot of them. Yichun rejected him firmly. What Master Gu said was a lie. If he really said that he had a lot of them, he would definitely get himself into big trouble. Although he was not afraid, he did not want to be used as a tool. I wonder what the tiger bone flower and the heavenly star herb that you're talking about are? Master Gu asked, unwilling to give up. Yichun thought about it and drew a picture of the tiger bone flower and the heavenly star herb on the ground with a piece of chalk. Everyone looked at it, and their faces were filled with confusion. Master Gu sighed. He had never seen it before. Yichun could not help but feel a little disappointed. At that moment, Yao Bingxue, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke. Are you talking about the Zhu Luohua? Yichun could not help but look at her. Yao Bingxue walked over and looked at the picture on the ground. She said again, is the tiger bone flower that you're talking about born in the tiger tomb? The one with 5 petals that look like plum blossoms and the color of blood? That's right. Yichun glanced at her in slight surprise. My Spiritual Medicine Mountain has the tiger bone flower, but there's very little of it. Moreover, this herb is hard to come by, so we don't sell it. Yao Bingxue smiled sweetly. Your so-called body-strengthening pill alone isn't enough unless you have something more valuable. Yichun thought about it and stretched his hand into his clothes again. A yellow medicinal pill appeared in his hand. The medicinal pill was even more dazzling than the body-strengthening pill earlier. There was a glow coming out of it like the scorching sun. Yao Bingxue was shocked, but she remained expressionless. This is the heart-repairing pill. It can extend a person's heartbeat and extend their life for a year. Everyone held their breaths as soon as Yichun was done speaking. They thought they had heard it wrong. Zhang Mengqi's heart jolted. Never had she thought that Yi Chun would have such a medicinal pill. What did you say? Yao Bingyue's pretty face that was initially calm changed. She glared deadly at Yi Chun. Did you say that it can extend a person's life for a year? That's right. Yi Chun nodded. The premise is that the person hasn't died before consuming it. Master Gu, test the pill. Yao Bingyue said immediately. Master Gu took the heart-repairing pill from Yi Chun. His hands were shaking, and he was even more nervous and serious than before. Everyone stared at him with their eyes wide open. Their hearts were in their throats, including Murong Yang. Over 10 minutes later, Master Gu passed the heart-repairing pill to Yi Chun. He wiped his sweat and said while shaking, "Miss, this medicinal pill indeed has the effect of extending one's life. I can't guarantee that it can extend one's life for a year, but it can at least extend one's life for half a year." Gasp! The crowd gasped again. It was true. Even if they could extend their lifespan by half a year, that would still be more than 100 days. No one would not want to live more than 100 days, especially for those who were about to die. Not to mention more than 100 years. Even living one more day was a luxury. Zhang Haoshuan was completely dumbstruck. Before the people could react, Murong Yang spoke first. "Brother Yi, the Murong family wants this heart-repairing pill of yours. You can name whatever you want. The Murong family can even give you 5% of our annual income in exchange." The crowd could not help but feel dizzy as soon as he was done speaking. Everyone couldn't help but feel dizzy. As the tyrant of Gan province, the Murong clan was a well-known financial group with hundreds of companies under its banner. Their annual revenue was at least 50 billion, so 5% would be 5 billion, and this was only for 1 year. Even Zhang Mingqi could not sit still anymore. She said, "Mr. Yi, as long as you give me the heart-repairing pill, the Zhang family of Wanan won't hold you accountable for making Zijian kneel anymore. P.S. There's one more to go." Chapter 280. Yao Bingyue's expression turned completely cold when she saw Murong Yang and Zhang Mengqi speaking first in an attempt to stop her. "Guys, the spiritual medicine mountain wanted this heart-repairing pill first. What's the meaning of this?" Murong Yang smiled lightly. "Ms. Yao, brother, you didn't promise to give it to you. Moreover, this is the medicinal pill exchange. Naturally, the highest bidder wins." "Not bad." Zhang Mengqi nodded and said, "The Zhang family of Wanan is determined to get the heart-repairing pill." The old man of the Zhang family was already in his 70s. Although he paid attention to his health, there would come a day when he would die. Only with the old man around could the Zhang family be as stable as Mount Tai. She could not help but look at Yi Chun as she spoke to this point. "Mr. Yi, you can consider my condition. As long as you give me the heart-repairing pill, my Zhang family won't hold you accountable for making Zijin kneel. We're even willing to guarantee you a lifetime of wealth." "Sister Mingqi, I willingly knelt to Mr. Yi." Zhang Zijian could not help but say. "Shut up." Zhang Mengqi glared at him. "Are you a pig?" Yao Bingyue took a deep breath in and said while looking at Yi Chun, "Mr. Yi, I'll trade you the tiger bone flowers. Brother Yi, give me the heart-repairing pill and we'll keep our promise. My Morong family will help you find the tiger bone flower and the stargrass. We're even willing to help you 3 times. Murong Yang increased his bargaining chip again. "You must know that my Murong clan is the leader in Lanzhou. My grandfather, Murong He, is an illuminating god spell master. There are only a handful of people in China who can compare to him." As soon as he finished speaking, everyone's scalp went numb from the shock. My goodness, the Murong clan was willing to fight for Yi Chun 3 times. This meant that even if Yi Chun offended an illuminating god expert, he would have 3 chances to survive. After all, the old master of the Murong clan, Murong He, was an illuminating god powerhouse. He was someone who was proficient in spells and stood at the top of China. Who would dare to disrespect him? Hearing this, Zhang Mengqi and Yao Bingyue's expressions changed at the same time. Clearly, they did not expect Murong Yang to offer such a high price. It was almost irresistible. Murong Yang asked, seeing that Yi Chun was silent, "Brother Yi, what do you think?" To him, nobody would offer a better offer than him. Yi Chun had no reason to reject it. nor did he dare to. Yao Bingyue closed her eyes in despair. Her grandfather was an illuminating god expert too. However, his life was coming to an end, and he had lost both his vital energy and blood. It was impossible for him to fight for Yi Chun, as he would only die faster if he did. Zhang Mingqi had already given up hope. Although the Zhang family of Wanin had the reputation of being a national warrior family, they didn't have a spirit realm warrior. In front of the Spirit Medicine Mountain and the Murong family, they had to lower their heads. Yi Chun lifted his head to look at Murong Yang as everyone stared at him. He smiled calmly. "You seem to owe me an apology." As soon as he said that, the place was dead silent. Everyone stared at Yi Chun in disbelief with their eyes wide open. They thought they had heard it wrong. He actually wanted Murong Yang to apologize to him? Murong Yang's face twitched a little. He squinted and a cold gleam flashed through his eyes. "So, are you rejecting me, Brother Yi?" He had said earlier that he was willing to apologize to Yi Chun if he could prove his identity. However, that was just an excuse. Nobody would take it seriously. In the end, Yi Chun took it seriously. Yi Chun chuckled softly and passed the heart-repairing pill in his hand to Yao Bingyue, who was standing aside. "Ms. Yao, the heart-repairing pill is yours. I hope to see the tiger bone flowers within these few days." He was not afraid that she would go back on her word if he gave it to Yao Bingyue first. After all, nobody could go back on their word. Yao Bingyue felt like she was in a dream as she looked at the heart-repairing pill at such a close distance. She took it over immediately after snapping back to her senses. She said while smiling, "Don't worry, Mr. Yi. I'll contact the Spirit Medicine Mountain later and get them to send someone over." "That's great." Yi Chun nodded lightly. Seeing that the tiger bone flowers had arrived, he got up and walked out of the lounge. The people only snapped back to their senses after he left. At that moment, many people's eyes flickered and they left with excuses one after another. Within half an hour, most of the people had left. "Let's go too." Zhang Mengqi glared coldly at Zhang Zijian and left with Zhang Haoshuan. On the way, Zhang Haoshuan could not help but say in jealousy, "I can't believe that Brat Yi has a medicinal pill like the heart-repairing pill. I've told you that Mr. Yi isn't an ordinary person, but you guys didn't listen to me," Zhang Zijian said while smiling. Zhang Mingqi stopped walking and glared at him coldly. "Are you an idiot? Why did you have to go against me in such a situation? Do you know how important the heart-repairing pill is to my Zhang family?" Zhang Zijian stammered, "But you shouldn't have made an issue out of me kneeling to Mr. Yi. I told you that I did it willingly, huh?" Zhang Mingqi scoffed. "Do you think that Brat will have a good ending?" He rejected Murong Yang in front of everyone. It's equivalent to slapping the Murong family's face. Will Murong Yang let him go? "What do you mean?" Zhang Zijian's expression changed. "Are you an idiot?" Zhang Haoshuan scoffed. As the saying goes, don't flaunt your wealth. Many people have been eyeing Yi for showing off his medicinal pill in front of everyone. Nobody would dare to touch him if he agreed to Murong Yang's request, but now, he licked his lips as he spoke to this point. "I can guarantee that you won't live to see tomorrow's sun. No, I must inform Mr. Yi to leave Ganzhou as soon as possible." Zhang Zijian wanted to leave by instinct. However, Zhang Mengqi grabbed him. "I'll expel you from the Zhang family if you dare to go." At the same time, in a luxurious living room in the Murong residence, Murong Yang glanced at Yao Bingyue before him and said with a grim expression, "Congratulations, Ms. Yao." How could Yao Bingyue not know what he meant? She shook her head and said, while smiling, "There's nothing to congratulate. Young Master Murong, what do you think of Yi?" Murong Yang said nothing. "This person looks ordinary, but he has medicinal pills like the body-strengthening pill and the heart-repairing pill. Either he's a pill refinement master, or he has someone behind him." A gleam flashed through Yao Bingyue's eyes. Murong Yang said while smirking, "What are you trying to say? Are you warning me not to touch that brat?" No. Yao Bingyue shook her head. "I can guarantee that this brat has secrets, and he has more than one medicinal pill like the heart-repairing pill. Young Master Murong, instead of congratulating me here, why don't you focus on him?" She stopped talking as she spoke to this point. Murong Yang came to a realization and glanced at her in slight fear. "Ms. Yao, I'm suddenly glad that I'm not your enemy. This lady was just too cruel. She had just taken advantage of Yi Lingxin and was now encouraging him to touch him. Same here. Yao Bingyue smiled sweetly, revealing a bashful expression. However, a hint of ruthlessness flashed across her beautiful eyes. You want the tiger bone flower? Huh, I've already gotten the medicinal pill. So if I don't give it to you, don't even think about walking out of Ganzhou alive after offending the Murong clan. P.S. That's it. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'll continue writing. I'll post it at 12:30 in the afternoon. I'll update as much as I can. Chapter 281. The Genius Nanny in the City. Chapter 281. It would only be interesting to kill more people. Urban Romance. G-Kickums. Add a bookmark. Recommend book. Chapter 281. It would only be interesting to kill more people. One update. After leaving the medicinal pill exchange, Yichen realized that there were two more people in the room when he returned to the hotel. They were Morong Shui and Yushasha. The duo was playing with Meng Meng at the moment. Yushasha said by instinct as soon as she saw him, "Yichen, you're back." Yichen walked over and said while frowning, "How did you guys know that we're staying here?" "We bumped into Sister Yuhan on the street, so we dropped by to see if you're back," Yushasha said while covering her mouth and giggling. Morong Shui looked at Yichen. She said in slight surprise upon seeing that he was fine. "You're fine? It seems like you really listened to what I told you earlier. You're smart." When she bumped into Yichen at the medicinal pill exchange earlier, she had told him not to speak nonsense and not to offend anyone. She had received a call before the medicinal pill exchange began, so she left with Yushasha. She had no idea what happened after that. Yichen shook his head in between tears and laughter. He walked over and picked up Meng Meng and kissed her cheek. "My darling, did you miss Daddy?" "I did." The little girl wrapped her arms around Yichen's neck and said while giggling, "Daddy, did you buy anything delicious for me?" "I forgot. Maybe next time." Yichen rubbed her round cheeks and asked, "Oh yeah, where did Mommy go?" "Mommy went to buy food for me. Daddy hasn't been back for a long time." "I'm starving," the little girl said with a bitter expression. Just when they were talking, Su Yuhan and Yi Wushuang pushed the door open and walked in. Su Yuhan was carrying a bag with a couple of burgers in it. "You're finally back. We've been waiting for you to eat together." Su Yuhan rolled her eyes at Yi Chun and distributed the burgers to the little girl, Morong Shui, and the rest. Yushasha said while smiling, "Thank you, Sister Yuhan. Note, please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. Recommended reading, / it's my fault. Let's go. I'll bring you guys out for dinner now." Yichen smiled in self-reproach. "That's great." Morong Shui rolled her eyes at him. "You should treat me to a meal, and it has to be expensive. I didn't help you twice in vain." Yichen carried the little girl and walked out. The sky was getting dark. Morong Shui, who wanted to make Yichen pay, brought the rest to a barbecue restaurant in the county town. The so-called barbecue on the water was actually a boat, and then eating on the boat, in addition to enjoying the night view in the distance. You could also fish. It cost 10 yuan to fish once. If the bait was used up and you still didn't catch any fish, you would have to spend another 10 yuan to change the fishing rod. As soon as she sat down, Meng Meng struggled out of Yichen's embrace and walked to the side of the boat while swaying. She said excitedly, "Daddy, I want to fish. I want to fish." "Meng Meng, come back quickly. Don't fall into the water." Su Yuhan wiped her sweat and hurried over to hug her. It was a lake. Even adults would be in trouble if they fell into it, let alone a 4-year-old child. The little girl looked at Yi Chun in a pitiful manner and began to act like a spoiled child. "Daddy, I want to fish." Yi Chun smiled and said to the barbecue restaurant owner next to him, "Please get me a fishing rod." The barbecue restaurant owner was a young man. After nodding, he soon took out a fishing rod with good bait. "Come here, my dear daughter." Yichen walked to the side of the boat and waved. The little girl tossed herself to him and began fishing after grabbing the fishing rod. "We want to fish too." Morong Shui and Yu Shasha were interested too. They asked for a fishing rod from the owner and began fishing by the side of the boat. 10 minutes had passed, and the buoy on the 3 fishing rods moved a few times. However, they realized that the bait had been used up when they picked them up to take a look. "Daddy, these fish are so smart. I can't even catch them." Meng Meng pouted, feeling a little discouraged. In reality, that was how smart the barbecue restaurant owner was. He used a large hook on purpose. The bait would swell as soon as it entered the water. Even if the fish bit it, it would not be hooked. That way, the customers would give up after a few tries. They would even spend money to buy fish from him for barbecue. Here, Daddy will teach you. Yichin smiled and got the owner to change the fishing rod. He held his daughter's little hand that was holding the fishing rod and secretly inserted some spiritual energy into the hook. Soon, the buoy moved. Daddy, it's moving. It's moving. The little girl was elated. She then lifted the fishing rod hard, and the water splashed. A grass carp that was over 30 centimeters long was hoisted up. It could not break free no matter how hard it tried. She really caught it. This time, both Murong Shui and Yu Shasha were stunned. Wow, what a big fish. The little girl giggled happily. Awesome. Yi Chun caressed her little face and passed the fish to the barbecue shop owner next to him after taking it off. Grill it for us. Murong Shui ordered some roasted kidney, skewers, and a few bottles of beer. Before long, the barbecue shop owner had served them everything they needed. Yu Shasha took the initiative to pour beer for everyone and took the lead to pick up the glass. And Xiang Yi, please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. Chun toasted Yi Wushuang. Yi Chun, sister Yuhan, little brother Wushuang. Nice to meet you guys. Hearing the words, little brother Wushuang, Yi Wushuang's cold expression froze a little. Just when he picked up a glass of beer to drink, he turned his head to look far away. Yi Chun also looked over. With his divine sense, he saw 2 yachts quickly approaching them. There were 5 men on the yachts, and each of their cultivation bases was not low. They were all meridian opening experts. What's that sound? Even Murong Shui noticed that something was off. Soon, the 2 yachts arrived. 5 men in different attire stepped onto the barbecue boat. Killing intent filled their faces. Guys, who are you guys? The barbecue shop owner went up to them immediately. Scram! The leading hunk slapped the barbecue shop owner unconscious. Murong Shui and Yu Shasha were shocked when they saw that. Who are you guys? Yu Shasha stammered. Yichin chuckled softly. They're a bunch of people who are blinded by greed. They want to kill me. Ha ha ha. The leading hunk laughed out loud immediately. Brat, it seems like you're not surprised that we're here. I'm not surprised that you guys are here. I'm surprised that there are only a few of you. Yichin shook his head lightly. Not enough for me to kill. He took a sip of beer as if nothing had happened as he spoke to this point. He said calmly, if I remember correctly, we've met before. Moreover, you were standing behind Murong Yang back then, right? I think your name is Zhou Hong. Brat, you have a great memory. However, the better your memory is, the more you want to die. Zhou Hong squinted and said, give me the body-strengthening pill that you took out earlier if you know what's good for you. Perhaps I'll let you die in one piece. I've told you that the few of you aren't enough for me to kill. Yichin lifted his head to look at the night far away. Come out, all of you. Stop hiding. It'll be more interesting when there are more of you. Chapter 282. As soon as Yichin said that, another 2 speedboats came from the surroundings. In an instant, there were more than 10 people on the barbecue boat, and all of them had murderous looks on their faces. The leader was an old man in a traditional Chinese robe. His temples were bulging, and his eyes were sinister. With his appearance, Zhou Hong's expression changed. Murong Kui, I didn't expect the Murong clan to be unable to hold themselves back. One must know that Murong Kui was an expert at the peak of illuminating pulse. He had even received guidance from old Master Murong He before. One could say that he was invincible below the master level. As soon as he said that, the others were also shocked. The pill exchange meet was organized by the Murong clan, but now the host had made a move on the guests who had come to participate in the meet. From this, it could be seen that the physique refining pill and the restoration heart pill were extraordinarily attractive. Murong Kui scoffed. That brat stole my Murong clan's medicinal pill. I'm here to capture him and bring him back for investigation. Hearing this, everyone cursed inwardly at how shameless they were. They couldn't help feeling that it was a pity. Even a great expert like Murong Kui had come, so they had no chance at all. Murong Kui, other people are afraid of your Murong family, but I'm not. You can take you with you, but I only want the body-strengthening pill on him. Zhou Hong smiled coldly. Not bad. The other old man with a sharp nose also said, our founding Long Fist sect only wants body-refining pills. Sure, Moron Kuei said in a deep voice. The few of them started working together after a few words. It looked like they had Yi Chun in the bag. Moron Kuei could not help but look at Yi Chun as he spoke to this point. He squinted and said, Brat, I'm advising you not to fight back. Come back with us obediently, or I'll kill you on the spot. Yu Shasha was completely frightened when she saw this. Her face turned deathly pale, and she kept shaking Murong Shue's arm. Sister Shue, what do we do? What should we do? Murong Shue inhaled softly and said to Murong Kuei, Master Kuei, I'm from the Murong clan too. My father is Murong Chung, and Yi Chun is my friend. I believe that he didn't steal anything from the Murong clan. She even had the urge to kill Yi Chun. You're really a jinx. As long as I'm with you, so many disasters will happen for no reason. Murong Chung? Murong Kuei looked at her in surprise, then sneered and said, Who does Murong Chung think he is? It's just a branch family. Not to mention you. Even your father wouldn't dare to say half a word in front of me. Get lost. Murong Shue's face paled. She also knew that although they were both from the Murong family, Murong Chung was nothing in front of Murong Kuei. She took a deep breath in and lifted her head to look at Yi Chun as she thought to this point. I'm sorry. I can't help you guys anymore. Sister Shui, Yu Shasha's expression changed. Murong Shui didn't explain. She forcibly dragged Yu Shasha away, showing no intention of staying. She was not related to Yi Chun at all, and they had only known each other for a day. There was no need for her to put herself in danger because of him. After they left, Murong Kuei then looked at Yi Chun and said wryly, Brat, I'll say this one last time. Come with us obediently. Don't force me to attack you. Why are you wasting your breath on him? Zhou Hong smiled coldly. Kill this brat with one slash, then search his body. As he spoke to this point, he could not help but look at Su Yuhan who was next to him. A hint of lust flashed through his eyes. This woman is considered pretty. Although she's had a child, her body is pretty good. Hearing this, anger flashed through Su Yuhan's face. When had she ever heard such filthy words? Jian Wushuang's expression turned cold, and he was about to attack. Yi Chun stopped him as a ferocious gleam flashed through his eyes. He said to Murong Kuei while looking at him, I'm here mainly to have fun. I don't want to fight anyone. However, since you guys are seeking death, don't blame me. Kill him. Kid, don't blame me. As the saying goes, an innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for having such a thing. Zhou Hong was the first to scoff. He moved and charged at Yi Chun at high speed. He clawed at Yi Chun's chest hard directly. Clearly, he had the intention to kill. Su Yuhan hurriedly picked up Meng Meng. Then he turned his head away. Yi Chun remained still. Ding! Zhou Hong's hand landed on Yi Chun's chest accurately. However, Yi Chun was not pierced by his claw as he imagined. Instead, a metallic clang was heard. Subsequently, he felt a heart-wrenching pain coming from his 5 fingers, as if they were going to break. How is that possible? Zhou Hong's expression changed. One must know that he, Zhou Hong, was famous for his heart-piercing claw. His ability was on illuminating pulse. When he performed his full strength, his claw could pierce through a wall. He could even pierce through a steel plate. However, Yi Chun's body was not harmed at all. Oh no, this brat is an expert. Zhou Hong's heart sank. He had no idea why, but a sense of danger slowly rose within him. He retreated a few steps back immediately. He turned his head and said to the old man with the sharp nose and Murong Kuei behind him, This brat is an expert. Let's fight him together. I say, second brother Zhou, aren't you known as the heart-piercing claw? Why are you so useless at such a critical moment? The old man with the sharp nose scoffed, but he approached Yi Chun anyway. Zhou Hong said, This brat's body is rather powerful. It must be because he consumed the body-strengthening pill. That means that this brat has more than one body-strengthening pill. We must kill him. The old man with the sharp nose had a greedy look in his eyes. Zhou Hong, I'll hold it back. Go get his woman and daughter. He let out a long roar and threw a punch as soon as he was done speaking. Taizu's long fist. Bang, bang, bang. The punch whistled and the air vibrated. The old man with the sharp nose threw a punch at Yichun. He was extremely agile, like a hungry tiger hunting sheep or a lion pouncing on a raging bull. His four limbs and one large spine were like a fully drawn bow as he moved. His fists were like arrows, and they were like deadly gusts of wind. Seeing the scene, Muron Koei, who was standing at the side, nodded to himself. As expected of the founding father's long fist, his movements are bold and unrestrained, yet he is both offense and defense. Zhou Hong, who was on the other side, smirked and grabbed Su Yuhan, who was carrying the cute little girl. Little beauty, here I come. However, just as he was halfway there, a sword light swept towards him. His legs were immediately cut off, and his upper body continued to fall forward due to the inertia. Oh! Zhou Hong shrieked and could not help but look at the young man in the suit before him. The young man in the suit was still sitting upright. Muron Kuei and the old man with the sharp nose were shocked to see Zhou Hong's tragic end. They looked at Yi Wushuang, clearly not expecting him to be so powerful. The old man with the sharp nose gulped and proceeded to attack Yichun. To him, all he had to do was kill Yichun. He would run away after getting the medicinal pill. However, he saw Yichun's mocking gaze. In the next second, Yichun threw a punch. Bang! This punch directly pierced through his chest. The old man with the sharp nose held his head down and blankly looked at the hand that pierced his chest. He then looked at Yichun. You, shock, fear, regret, disbelief, bang. Before he was done speaking, his entire body split into two and subsequently exploded into a bloody mist. Dead silence filled the place. Zhou Hong, whose legs were severed, stopped shrieking. He watched that in utter fear, feeling like he was shaking. The old man with the sharp nose, who was also on illuminating pulse, had died. Just like that? One must know that his ability was on par with his. Muron Kuei remained still. If one were to look closely, one would notice that his body was shaking. Cold sweat the size of beans dripped from his forehead. Run! You must run! He shrieked and turned around to run far away. He did not even have the courage to fight Yichun. Yi Wushuang got up and chased after him. There's no need to chase after him. He won't live. Yichun stopped him and looked at the direction that Muron Kuei was running in. Subsequently, he looked at Zhou Hong in a condescending manner. Zhou Hong jolted and struggled in fear. Mr. Yi, please spare me. Please spare me. I shouldn't have attacked you. Chapter 283. Thud, thud, thud. On the busy street, an old man's legs were moving rapidly. He ran on the street with all his might, attracting the attention of the passers-by. Muron Kuei turned his head as he ran. Shock and fear filled his face. How can this brat be so powerful? I was too careless. I was too careless. He broke out in cold sweat as soon as he recalled how Yichun pierced the sharp-nosed old man's body with a punch. This brat might be a martial Dao master. I must tell young Master Muron when I get back. At the Muron residence, Muron Yang and Yao Bingyue from the Spiritual Medicine Mountain sat opposite each other. There was a chess game before them. Yao Bingyue looked at the chess game with a white chess piece in her hand. She said, "The person you sent out isn't back yet." Thud! Muron Yang placed the chess piece and said without even lifting his head, "Don't worry. Uncle Kuei is a peak stage illuminating pulse expert. It's a piece of cake for him to deal with that brat. I'm worried that someone will go against the Muron family. Your Muron family has made a fortune this time." Yao Bingyue placed the chess piece and said while smiling, "I suspect that brat has the medicinal formula. If we capture him and get the formula, I hope that the Muron family can make a copy for the Spiritual Medicine Mountain. We're willing to give the Muron family 5 1,000-year-old herbs." Sure, sure. Muron Yang laughed out loud upon hearing that. Yao Bingyue smiled sweetly, but coldness filled her eyes. You don't blame me. Blame yourself for having something that you shouldn't have. At that moment, a commotion came from outside. Muron Yang smiled immediately. Uncle Kuei must be back. Muron Kuei was carried in by a few honks. Morong Kue was carried in by a few burly men. His head was covered with sweat, and he looked very miserable. Morong Yang's expression turned grim. Uncle Kue, where's that brat? Young master, that brat is... Morong Yang was going to speak while panting. However, he realized an intense pain coming from his heart before he was done speaking. It was as if a knife was slicing through his heart. It hurts. My heart hurts. He fell onto the ground while holding his chest while shrieking. He extended his arm to Murong Yang in pain. Young master, help me. Before he could finish his words, his hand dropped down heavily and there was no more movement. Everyone in the room was terrified. A burly man walked over and placed his hand under Murong Kue's nose to check his breathing. His hand trembled as he said, Young Master Kue, Master Kue is dead. Murong Yang's expression changed drastically. Yao Bingyue inhaled sharply and said, Killing from distance. That's a spell master's technique. Murong Yang, we've underestimated that guy. That lad is also a spell master? Murong Yang's expression turned grave. Not bad. Yao Bingwen nodded heavily. That kid must be a spell master. Otherwise, he wouldn't have pills. I'm guessing he's a Dao entry spell master. What do we do now? Murong Yang's face twitched hard. Spell masters. There were very few of them in this world. Their techniques were no weaker than those of ancient martial art practitioners, especially the spell masters who had entered the path. They could already control magical artifacts and perform some spells. Although the Murong clan was the overlord of Gan province, they did not have many spell masters, let alone Dao initiation realm spell masters. Don't worry too much. Yao Binghua shook her head and said while smiling, Don't forget that you're a spell master too, and you're on Dao entry. Your clan's old master Murong, he is an illuminating god expert. That's right. Murong Yang could not help but release a sigh of relief upon hearing that. He smiled calmly. I admit that I've misjudged that brat. However, so what if he's on Dao entry? My clan isn't afraid of him either. He was also a spell master at Murong Shue's house. Yu Shasha looked at Murong Shue, who was blocking the door, rather angrily. Sister Shue, why did you drag me away? Yi Chun and the rest. Don't mention them to me. Murong Shue cut her off. Are you stupid? There's so many people here. We can't even protect ourselves if we continue to stay here. But Yi Chun, Yu Shasha's eyes turned red. But what? Do you know what my clan's position is in Gan province? Yi Chun can't fight back at all before them. Murong Shue sighed. Silly girl, what's your relationship with Yi Chun? What's our relationship? We're not related to each other. To put it bluntly, we're not even friends. Why are you so worried? On the barbecue boat, Yi Chun scoffed after sensing the spiritual power whirlpool that he left in Murong Kue's body exploding. He then looked at Zhou Hong, who was begging for mercy with a cold gaze. Wu Shuang, kill them all. Don't leave anyone alive. Devastating shrieks filled the place. Yi Chun then walked to Su Yuhan and his daughter. He stretched his arm out and hugged her softly. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't scare you. Yi Chun, who are they? Why are they killing you? Su Yuhan said while her pretty face turned pale. Although it was not her first time seeing Yi Chun kill someone, she could not accept it each time. Yi Chun comforted her. They're a bunch of arrogant trash. Don't worry. I'll deal with them. Why don't we leave? I don't want to stay here anymore. Su Yuhan said worriedly. Yi Chun nodded and agreed to it right away. Sure, we'll leave the day after tomorrow. But before that, I have to collect my debt. The next afternoon, Yi Chun went to the medicinal pill exchange at the Murong clan's ancestral residence again. There were up to 100 more people than before. Many people who had seen him before were shocked as soon as Yi Chun appeared. Clearly, they did not expect him to be alive and to have the guts to come. These people had no idea what happened last night at all, let alone that more than 10 people had vanished from this world. Yi Chun looked calm as he faced the people's stare. After finding a place to sit down, he secretly searched for Yao Bingyue. Yi Chun, a voice that was filled with disbelief came. Yi Chun lifted his head to look and realized that Murong Shue and Yu Shasha were standing far away. They were looking at him with their mouths agape, while Yu Shasha still looked guilty. Why you're not dead? Murong Shue walked over quickly, looking shocked. Yichen glanced at her expressionlessly and said, "Why? Do you want me to die?" "What do you mean?" Murong Shui was a little upset. Initially, she blamed herself for abandoning Yichen yesterday. However, she was upset when she heard Yichen's harsh words. "All right, Sister Shui, stop talking." Yu Shasha pulled her sleeve and lifted her head to look at Yichen. She felt rather guilty. "Yichen, sorry. Don't worry about it." Yichen's expression eased. He had nothing against Yu Shasha. The girl was innocent and soft-hearted. They had just met, but she treated him with sincerity. Murong Shui scoffed while standing aside when she noticed that Yichen's attitude toward Yu Shasha was completely different from hers. "Are you blaming me for not caring about you? You're the one who stirred up trouble. What does that have to do with me?" At that moment, a commotion came from the lobby. Subsequently, Murong Yang walked over from the end of the lobby and walked toward Yichen one step after another. Yu Shasha's expression changed. Yu Shasha's expression changed instantly. She recognized Murong Yang and thought he was looking for trouble with Yichen. Murong Shui pulled Yu Shasha aside immediately. She was afraid that they would be implicated by Yichen. However, Murong Yang smiled warmly when he walked to Yichen. "Brother Yi, can we have a chat?" At that moment, everyone was stunned. Yu Shasha was stunned. Murong Shui was stunned too. She did not expect Murong Yang to be so polite to Yichen. One must know that Murong Yang was the eldest young master of the Murong clan. On top of that, he was favored by the old master Murong He. Murong Yang looked at Yichen in an extremely friendly manner. The smile on his face was extremely sincere. To him, although Yichen was a spell master, he, the eldest young master of the Murong clan, had taken the initiative to invite him. He would not reject it. He dared not reject it. However, Yichen said without even lifting his head, "I'm busy. P.S. There are 2 more chapters to go. I'll finish the remaining 2 chapters after I'm done with them." Chapter 284. "I'm busy." Yichen's voice was neither loud nor soft, but everyone heard every single word he said. Dead silence filled the place. Everyone stared at Yichen in disbelief with their eyes wide open. This brat rejected Murong Yang's invitation? A gleam flickered in Murong Yang's eyes. He eventually laughed out loud and said, "Since Brother Yi is busy, forget it. We'll meet again if we have a chance." He turned around and walked to the crowd after saying that. However, there was extreme killing intent hidden in his gentle smile. This man must die. The reason why he invited Yichen earlier was to test Yichen's attitude toward him. However, Yichen rejected him. It meant that Yichen was still upset that he had sent someone to kill him last night. It meant that there was no room for reconciliation between them. Murong Shui walked over after he left. She said angrily, "Are you out of your mind? How dare you reject Brother Yang's invitation in front of everyone?" She was from a Murong clan, so she knew very well about Murong Yang's position in the entire clan. "So what if I did?" Yichen's attitude was cold. Murong Shui was pissed. She said after a scoff, "Do whatever you want. I can't be bothered with you. Shasha, let's go." She pulled Yu Shasha and left after saying that. Yu Shasha turned her head and gave Yichen an apologetic look. Yichen lifted his eyes to take a good look at the entire lounge. His gaze paused. He saw Yao Bingyue walking over from far away at that moment. Master Gu followed behind her. Yao Bingyue's expression froze the moment she saw Yichen. She seemed to have never thought that Yichen would dare to come to the Murong residence openly after what happened last night. She turned her eyes, trying to pretend that she did not see Yichen. However, Yichen walked over and said calmly, "Ms. Yao, when will my tiger bone flowers arrive?" Coldness flashed through Yao Bingyue's eyes upon seeing that Yichen was blocking her way. However, she said while smiling, "Soon, Mr. Yi. Don't worry. They're on their way. I hope to see them tonight." Yichen nodded and turned around to leave. Yao Bingyue's expression changed a few times after watching him leave. Subsequently, she signaled Murong Yang. Both of them walked to the Murong residence's lounge one after another. Bang! Murong Yang slammed the table with a grim expression. "This brat doesn't know what's good for him. How dare he reject my invitation? Do it, Murong Yang." Yao Bingyue's pretty face was cold as well. It's clear that Yi doesn't respect you. I suggest you do it yourself. My spiritual medicine mountain will send another Tao initiation powerhouse. We'll work together and kill him tonight. Just now, all of a sudden, she received a call from the spiritual medicine mountain saying that the tiger bone flower that Yi Chan wanted had withered unexpectedly. Now, Yi Chan was forcing him again and again. She couldn't care less anymore. At this point, she couldn't help but turn around and say to a black-clothed old man, "Uncle Fu, I'll have to trouble you to make a move tonight. Grandfather doesn't seem to be able to make it. I have to take the Restore Heart pill and go back early." Uncle Fu's eyes lit up, and he grinned. "Miss, don't worry. Leave this child to me. He will die." "Who do you want to kill?" An old voice sounded. Subsequently, an old man in green with a walking stick walked over slowly. The old man was approximately 60 years old, but he looked as old as 80 years old. Every step he took, there would be a ripple under his feet, as if he was stepping on everyone's hearts. If there were experts in the spell world present, they would definitely be shocked to find out that the old man's footsteps resembled a formation. Uncle Fu could not help but let out a low grunt. Shock appeared on his face as he clasped his fists immediately. "Greetings, old Master Murong." Yao Bingwa bowed too. There was no other reason. It was because the old man before them was the pillar of the Murong clan, Murong He. He was an illuminating god expert who stood at the peak of the spell world. Rumor had it that he could turn flowers into swords and water into ice. "Grandpa," Murong Yang went to him immediately and told him about Yi Chun possessing the Restore Heart pill. Murong He stretched his arm and grabbed at Yao Bingwa. A yellow medicinal pill flew from her to Murong He. Yao Bingwa's expression changed. Just when she was going to say something, a gleam flashed through Murong He's cloudy eyes as he looked at the Restore Heart pill. It's indeed a medicinal pill that can extend one's life. He flicked his finger as soon as he was done speaking, and the Restore Heart pill flew into Yao Bingwa's hand again. "Little girl, since the Restore Heart pill belongs to you, of course, I won't take it from you." Murong He's voice was extremely hoarse as he said, "However, my clan won't let go of this young man named Yi." He lifted his head to look at Murong Yang as he spoke to this point. "Yang, your decision is right. You and old Fu will capture this young man named Yi and bring him to me tonight. You must capture him alive. He must have the pill formula with him. Also, I'll give you a magic tool." A silver needle appeared in his hand. "This is called the mysterious sealing needle. Insert it into his body, and he won't be able to activate his mysterious chi. You can do whatever you want to him." "Yes, Grandpa." Murong Yang stretched his arm out to take it. He was over the moon. Yao Bingwa looked envious as she stood aside. Murong He then looked at her. "Little girl, go back to the spiritual medicine mountain now and tell your grandfather this for me. Tell him that when we get the heart-repairing pills formula, we'll produce it together. By then, nobody in China will be able to compete with us." Murong He looked at Murong He. "Sure." Yao Bingwa agreed to it right away. She could see the tempting benefits too. If the Restore Heart pill could really be mass-produced, countless people in China who were afraid of death would kneel before the spiritual medicine mountain and the Murong clan. Night fell. Su Yuhan fell asleep early while hugging her baby, Meng Meng, since they had a rush tomorrow. Yi Chen looked at the time and realized that it was already 10 p.m. He could not help but shake his head lightly. "Yao Bingwa, I'm afraid that you're going back on your word." At that moment, someone knocked on the door. Yi Chen got up to open the door and saw an attendant standing at the door. "Mr. Yi, a lady asked me to pass this to you." There was an envelope in his hand. Yi Chen took it and opened the envelope after the attendant left. There was a line of words written on it. "Mr. Yi, the tiger bone flowers are here. Please pick them up personally. The location is at the Maojia restaurant." The letter in Yi Chen's hand burned into ashes after he was done reading it. He could not help but reveal a mocking smirk at the corner of his lips. "It seems like you're really going back on your word." Yao Bingwa knew where Yi Chen was staying. Instead of getting someone to deliver it to him, she asked him to pick it up personally. It was clear that she wanted to kill him. "I like to see where you guys get your confidence from. How dare you go back on your word?" Yi Chen walked out of the room while smiling. Yi Wushuang walked out of the room next door. "Brother, shall I go with you?" "No need." Yi Chen shook his head and said, Stay here to protect your sister-in-law and Meng Meng. I wanted to reason with them, but I didn't expect them to talk with their fists in the end. It seems like it's the same no matter where we are. The one with the strongest fists is the most powerful one. P.S. Chapter 4. There's one more chapter in today's update. Chapter 285. Evil Stay-at-Home Dad in the City. Chapter 285. Murong Yang's Pride. Urban Romance. G-Kickums. Please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. Argot equals _ blank 11311/modules/article/ aid equals 46,921. Back to bibliography. Add a bookmark. Recommend this book. Chapter 285. Murong Yang's Pride. Half an hour later, Yichen arrived at the Maojia Hotel successfully. It was a 5-story house that was luxuriously decorated. Meanwhile, there was a statue of Mao Zedong at the entrance of the hotel. The sound of footsteps could be heard, and then an old man in black clothes walked out. His expression was very polite. "Mr. Yi, you're here." This old man was Elder Fu. Yichen glanced at him and asked in surprise, "Why are you here? Where's Miss Yao?" Miss Yao's returned to the spiritual medicine mountain, but before that, she gave me what you wanted. While old Fu was speaking, he paid attention to Yi Chen's expression subconsciously. Yi Chen said, "All right then, give it to me." "Mr. Yi, don't worry. In order to thank you for selling the heart-nourishing pill to us, Miss Yao specially booked a banquet before she left and instructed me to entertain you well." After saying that, old Fu casually placed his hand on Yi Chen's shoulder with a passionate expression. "Miss Yao, you're being too polite." Yi Chen smiled and followed him into the Maojia Hotel. They went straight to the 3rd floor. Yi Chen did not see anyone along the way. The entire Maojia restaurant seemed rather empty. He could not help but ask, "Why isn't there anyone in this restaurant? Isn't this to entertain you, Mr. Yi?" "That's why we booked the entire restaurant, to prevent others from disturbing your meal." Old Fu gestured for Yi Chen to sit down. There were many dishes on the table at the moment. There were even 2 bottles of red wine. Old Fu opened the bottle and poured a glass for Yi Chen. He said while smiling, "Mr. Yi, let me toast you on behalf of Ms. Yao." Yi Chen clinked glasses with him and said, after taking a sip of the red wine, "Shouldn't you give me the tiger bone flowers now? Why don't you have another drink?" Elder Fu suggested. Yi Chen shook his head, revealing an eager expression. "Give it to me first. It won't be too late for me to drink it later." "Sure." Old Fu stood up and walked aside. He took out a brocade box that seemed to be made of sandalwood. Yi Chen could smell the fragrance of sandalwood from far away. "Mr. Yi, the tiger bone flower is inside." Elder Fu walked over with a brocade box in his hands. Yi Chen extended his hand toward the brocade box. He wanted to open it to take a look. Just when his hand touched the lid of the brocade box, fierceness flashed across Elder Fu's eyes as he held the bottom of the brocade box. Please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. Suddenly, a silver needle appeared in his hand. A silver light streaked across the sky. The silver needle pierced into Yi Chen's wrist. It penetrated his skin directly and disappeared within the blink of an eye. Yi Chen's expression changed as he looked at Elder Fu in disbelief. What did you do to me?" Elder Fu, who was extremely friendly earlier, had a drastic change in his attitude. A smug expression appeared on his face. "Of course, I pierced the mysterious sealing needle into your body." "What's the mysterious sealing needle?" Yi Chen said coldly. "It's a magic tool that can lock the mysterious qi in your body." Elder Fu scoffed. "Do you feel like your limbs are jelly and that you can't activate the mysterious qi in your body? There's a piercing pain coming from your meridians as soon as you use your strength?" Yi Chen tried it, and the expression on his face changed again. "Why did you do that?" "That's a great question." At that moment, a guffaw came from the staircase on the 4th floor. Murong Yang walked down while smiling. He was clapping as he walked. "Great job, Elder Fu." "Murong Yang, it's you." Yi Chen wanted to stand up by instinct, but he sat back down again. He looked like he was in pain. "So this is a scam. You guys are trying to kill me. You're not stupid after all." Elder Fu chuckled and opened a brocade box right in front of Yi Chen. It was empty. There was nothing inside. Yichen glared at him angrily. I've already given you the heart-repairing pill. You guys broke your promise. Brat, in reality, we never planned to give you the tiger bone flowers since the beginning. Elder Fu's expression was grim. If we didn't use this method, how would we have tricked you to come here? Yichen closed his eyes and said, I can understand that Murong Yang wants to kill me, but I don't think I've offended the spiritual medicine mountain. Why do you guys want to kill me? Why are you guys working with him? Murong Yang took a good look at him wryly. That's because you have the body-strengthening pill and the heart-repairing pill. If I'm not mistaken, you must have the pill formula with you. I don't. Yichen shook his head immediately, looking rather panicked. The smile on Murong Yang's face was getting brighter upon seeing his expression. I asked you to give me the heart-repairing pill before this, but you didn't know what's good for you. You rejected me and refused to tell me. I sent Uncle Koei to kill you after that, but I can't believe that you killed Uncle Koei with a spell. You're a Dao entry spellmaster. The expression on his face was replaced by ruthlessness. But so what? I, Murong Yang, am also a spellmaster. On top of that, I'm on Mastery Stage Dao entry. A powerful aura exploded from his body as soon as he was done speaking. A powerful aura erupted from his body, and he waved his hand at the chandelier on the ceiling. Huh! The chandelier lit up. He waved again, and the chandelier was extinguished. Subsequently, he lifted his head to look at Yichen. I'm guessing you must be very surprised. You must be regretting rejecting me, aren't you? It's useless even if you regret it. Murong Yang shook his head lightly. I could have killed you with my ability, but my grandpa and Ms. Yao sent old Fu to help me just in case. They even gave me the mysterious sealing needles. His expression turned cold as he spoke to this point. Now that your mysterious chi has been sealed by the mysterious sealing needles, you're no different from an ant to me. You'll definitely die today. Old Fu, kill him. Old Fu, who was standing aside, grinned ferociously. Old Fu, who was standing aside, grinned ferociously and extended his arm to Yichen. Brat, have a safe journey. Wait, Yichen said all of a sudden. And in reminder, please rest your eyes after reading for a long time. Recommended reading, BSB, Murong Yang teased like a cat playing with a mouse. There's no need for you to beg for mercy because it's too late. You can tell me if you have any last words. Yichen looked at old Fu. I'll give the spiritual medicine mountain one last chance. Give me the tiger bone flowers and get Yao Bingyue to kowtow to me as an apology. How dare you boast when you're about to die? Old Fu scoffed and threw a punch at Yichen directly. Yichen sighed softly and subsequently stood up. He no longer looked like he could not move at all. How can you move? Old Fu's eyes were wide open in disbelief. Murong Yang was shocked too. Didn't the mysterious sealing needles seal your mysterious chi and meridians? Mysterious sealing needles? Are you guys talking about this? Yichen chuckled and subsequently rolled up his sleeve. The skin on his arm began to tremble. As it trembled, a tiny silver needle came out gradually. How is that possible? Old Fu and Murong Yang exclaimed at the same time. Yichen shook his head lightly and looked at Murong Yang in slight disdain. Didn't you investigate my identity before you attacked me? Who are you? Murong Yang's heart sank. Although the Murong clan was a tyrant in Ganzhou, they did not have much power in the outside world. They were rather isolated from the news. He had asked about Yichen's identity earlier. However, he did not think much about it when he heard that Yichen had a conflict with the bandits' underlings at Shilatang. He thought that the bandits were afraid of Yichen's identity as a spellmaster. Now that he heard Yichen's question, he had a bad feeling. He had a bad feeling growing inside of him. No wonder your Murong clan can only dominate in Ganzhou, but you're not famous in China. Yichen shook his head lightly and walked to Murong Yang one step after another. My name is Yichen. I'm from Tianan. I killed Yuan Bupo and 3 masters on my own. I destroyed the Su clan and the Martial Alliance branch with a swing of my sword. Murong Yang's expression changed drastically as soon as he was done speaking. Murong Yang's expression changed drastically. He staggered over 10 steps back and eventually exclaimed in shock, Why, you're mad, Southern Yi? What? Old Fu, who was standing aside, had goosebumps all over his body when he heard that. He released a shriek in disbelief. He's mad southerny? P.S. I finished updating the 5th chapter today. I'll continue writing the 2 chapters that I owe. My saviors, rest early. Don't wait for me. Otherwise, you'll say that I'm lying. Don't make me stay up all night writing and end up being scolded. Chapter 286. Impossible. Murong looked at Yi Chun in disbelief and said at the top of his lungs, "How can you be mad southerny? That's impossible." If one were to look closely, one would notice that when he said this, his whole body was trembling slightly. Mad southerny. These 3 words represented too many things. It represented endless killing and decisiveness. Countless people had died in his hands, and there were as many as 10 to 20 martial Dao masters alone. It represented supreme combat strength and status. He was a martial Dao master, a physique training master, #1 on the heaven leaderboard, #1 in China. One could say that Mad Southern Yi was a legend in the entire martial Dao world in China. At the same time, he was countless people's nightmare. Therefore, Murong and Old Fu had such a huge reaction when they heard Yi Chun say that he was Mad Southern Yi. They were even terrified. That's right. This brat can't be Mad Southern Yi. Young Master Murong, don't be fooled. He's scaring us on purpose. Old Fu suppressed the fear within him forcefully. Killing intent filled his eyes when he looked at Yi Chun. Die brat. Old Fu performed a strange seal as soon as he was done speaking. He quickly formed a strange hand seal. This hand seal was like a 6-pointed star that contained 6 directions. Once the hand seal was formed, streams of baleful yin qi whizzed over from 6 directions. The vile energy was extremely cold. If a regular person came into contact with it, they would either catch a cold or have a fever, or they would die on the spot. Brat, I'll show you my 6 vial formation. You should be happy that you're able to die under it. Endless vile energy gathered in the seal that he performed. Eventually, it turned into an earth-shattering flood that charged at Yi Chun. That was a spell master's technique. Although they did not rely on their physical strength like ancient martial artists, they could use spells to set up a formation to fight the enemy. Old Fu had only mastered the 6 vial formation after over 20 years of hard work. Since he was on Mastery Stage Dao entry, its power was comparable to a peak stage, illuminating Pulse ancient martial artist's full-powered attack when he performed it with all his might. A regular person would die immediately upon touching it. However, when an ancient martial artist touched it, his body would be corroded by the vile energy instantly. It might even affect his soul. Old Fu could not help but reveal a smirk and a proud expression as he thought to this point. He seemed to have envisioned Yi Chen's tragic end. However, in the next second, he looked as if he had seen a ghost. Yi Chen opened his mouth all of a sudden and sucked the vile torrent that was charging at him. A whirlpool formed before him all of a sudden. Yi Chun sucked the vile torrent that was charging out with the help of the air whirlpool. How is this possible? Elder Fu widened his eyes. That was vile energy. It was extremely harmful to a living person's body. Not only did Yi Chun not dodge it, but he even swallowed it. Even Yao Huayuan, a spirit realm warrior from the Spirit Medicine Mountain, wouldn't dare to do that. Murong, who was standing aside, was shocked. Burp! Yi Chen spat out a mouthful of foul air and said after burping, "Is this what you're capable of? Not enough, far from enough. Is there anyone more powerful?" He was an immortal venerable, so even the strongest lightning in the world could not harm him at all, let alone a mere yin qi. Who exactly are you? Elder Fu finally panicked. I told you, I'm Mad Southern Yi. Yi Chen walked toward him one step after another. Mad Southern Yi is an ancient martial artist. How can he have such a technique? Elder Fu shrieked and said immediately, Young Master Murong, what are you waiting for? Otherwise, we'll all die today. As he shrieked, Murong snapped back to his senses. Murong snapped out of his daze and snapped the pendant on his neck. It was a purple gourd the size of a thumb with all sorts of patterns printed on it. Yi, go to hell. Murong stretched his arm out and pulled the stopper off the purple gourd. Whoosh, 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 a sinister wind blew out of the gourd's mouth. The wind was getting stronger, and soon It covered the entire third floor of the Maojia Hotel. Countless devastating shrieks filled the air as shadows that looked like ghosts charged at Yichun. Is it the ghoul gourd? Elder Fu's scalp tingled. He had heard that Murongyang had massacred a village of tens of people to refine this magic tool and collected endless resentment. He could not believe that it was true. Facing the black energy that was charging at him, Yichun opened his mouth and roared. He unleashed the heavenly dragon's 8 music, Get Lost. His voice was as vast as rolling thunder, yet it was also like the roar of a true dragon, filled with supreme majesty. The word Get Lost was heard. The black aura shattered into pieces. Then it disappeared. Pu, Murongyang spat a mouthful of blood out. His face turned pale and blood drained from his face. Not only did Yichun break its spell, but he also broke its ghoul gourd. He even injured its mind with a single sentence. Insignificant tricks, and you dare to show off in front of me? Today, I'll let you see what a true ghost Dao magical artifact is. Yichun chuckled softly. A black streamer suddenly appeared in his hand. The temperature in the room dropped as soon as the black streamer appeared. 100 ghosts emerged. He waved the black banner. Boom! Boundless black smoke spread out from the black flag, accompanied by extremely shrill cries and illusory and ferocious faces filled with resentment. In an instant, the entire third floor of the Maojia Hotel turned into a ghost town. Hundreds of ghosts roamed and howled. Murongyang had goosebumps all over his body at that moment. How do you have such a terrifying magical artifact? Oh no. Old Fu's expression changed as he lost it and exclaimed, We've guessed wrong. This brat is an illuminating god almighty. Run. Run now. He leaped toward the door as soon as he was done speaking. However, boundless black smoke blocked his way. Just when he extended his left hand out of the black smoke, the sound of something biting his flesh came. Ah! Old Fu shrieked and pulled his hand back immediately. He realized that his left hand had turned into a piece of white bone from the shoulder down. There was no flesh at all. Murongyang was scared out of his wits when he saw that. He fell onto the ground by instinct. Mr. Yi, don't kill me. My grandfather is an illuminating god expert. You can't kill me. Your grandfather came to look for me. He's going to die too. You should go first. Yichun waved the 100 soul streamer again. Tins of black smoke charged at Murongyang directly. Crack, crack, crack. As chewing noises were heard, a set of white bones appeared on the ground. Plop! Old Fu knelt onto the ground hard in fear. He knelt to Yichun one step after another in fear. Mr. Yi, please spare my life. Please spare my life. As long as you don't kill me, I'm willing to bring you the tiger bone flowers. I've already given you a chance. Yichun shook his head lightly and pressed his palm on Old Fu's head. He performed the soul-searching tactic by force. Old Fu shrieked in pain, but he could not break free. Soon, Yichun retracted his hand slowly. His expression changed a few times. Eventually, he scoffed, Yao Bingyue, you're really back at the spiritual medicine mountain. You're lucky. But do you think you can get away with this? You're too naive. Since that's the case, you'll pay me back with your life. P.S. This is a chapter that I missed. I'm still missing one chapter.